This is John Daly in Rouen, France. The procession which is to take Joan of Arc, the Maid of Orleans, to the stake on this morning of May 30th, 1431, is behind schedule. We had expected that it would be here at the Rouen prison castle in which Joan of Arc is chained in a dungeon, but when we went on the air, we expected it, but evidently something has happened to cause a delay, and the procession is still nowhere in sight. The sentence of the French ecclesiastical court, which condemned her for heresy, is about to be carried out. And unless this 19-year-old farm girl, called by some a saint and by some a witch, admits to having served the devil, unless she bows to the will of the court and recants, Joan of Arc will die in the flames before this hour is over. This crowd outside the prison castle here keeps looking in the direction from which the procession will come. There are some several hundred men, women, and children here. They're Burgundian French, allies of the English, and hostile to Joan of Arc.
May 30th, 1431, Rouen, France. CBS is there.
Joan of Arc faces the stake. The Maid of Orleans can renounce her visions and live, or hold to her faith and die. CBS takes you back 517 years to the day in the Middle Ages that changed the course of French history. All things are as they were then, except for one thing.
CBS is there.
CBS is there, produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon, is based on authentic historical fact and quotation. And now,
May 30th, 1431, the prison castle at Rouen and John Daly.
It's a beautiful spring day, a day hard to reconcile with the grim event that is about to take place, if it takes place. The burning of Joan will be at the old market square here in Rouen, a short distance away from this prison. When the procession arrives, the authorities will make one more effort to break Joan's will. They will bring her from her dungeon to the great hall of the castle, and there they will ask her to sign an instrument of abjuration. If Joan of Arc signs, it is not yet known what her fate will be, but at least she will be saved from the stake. And if she refuses to sign, well, then the procession will take her to the old marketplace where the executioner and a huge crowd are already waiting. However, there is still no sign of the procession, and my colleague, Quincy Howe, has spent the last few days in an exhaustive investigation of the career of this remarkable girl. And for his report, we take you now to Quincy Howe at our Mobile headquarters.
Never before in history has one person risen so swiftly from obscurity to fame as Joan of Arc, Maid of Orleans. Of all the amazing feats she is said to have performed, none surpasses this. Joan was born 19 years ago in the little village of Domremy, on the left bank of the river Meuse, just west of the Duchy of Lorraine. Her father is Jacques d'Arc, a simple farmer. From childhood, Joan claimed she saw visions of saints and heard their voices. Then one day, St. Michael appeared to her in the radiant figure of a man poised on wings and bathed in dazzling light. St. Michael told Joan that God had appointed her to drive the English invader from the soil of France. He told her to go and lift the siege of Orleans and put Charles the Dauphin on the French throne. In a remarkable series of adventures, this simple farm girl, who could neither read nor write and who dressed like a man, reached the Dauphin and persuaded him to make her commander-in-chief of his armies. Clad in white armor and riding a black charger, she inspired the French soldiers to incredible heroism and won great victories. She drove the English forces and their Burgundian allies from Orleans. She led the Dauphin to Reims, where he was crowned King of France. Then, after she had accomplished her holy mission, the English captured her at Compiègne and handed her over to the French for trial as a sorceress. For months, she confounded her learned inquisitors. Always she refused to repudiate her visions. Yesterday, the court condemned her, and today she dies, unless she falters when she sees the stake. Men of logic regard Joan's visions as phantoms of her religious imagination. They consider her military success just a barrel of luck. But to thousands of Frenchmen who revere and follow her, she seems indeed a messenger from God. What the future will think is... just a moment. Here comes the procession back to John Daly.
In a solemn march to the prison castle, the procession is led by a delegation of high churchmen, followed by black-robed Dominican monks chanting a litany. There are also English men-at-arms on horseback and an empty tumbrel. The castle drawbridge is coming down. Perhaps you can hear the rattle of its chains in the background. At the head of the procession, His Lordship Pierre Cochon, the Bishop of Beauvais, and Chief Judge at Joan of Arc's trial. Beside him, the Earl of Warwick, who in the absence of the Duke of Bedford is the Commander-in-Chief of the English forces occupying Rouen. The drawbridge is down. The Bishop of Beauvais and the Earl of Warwick have stopped here to talk with the captain of the castle guard. The monks are passing on over the drawbridge into the great hall of the castle, where Joan of Arc will be given her final chance to abjure. I've interviewed both Pierre Cochon and the Earl of Warwick before during Joan's trial. Pierre Cochon speaks English, and, sir, here's a question I've not asked you before. Has it ever been officially explained why you were chosen as the chief judge for the trial of the maid?
It is a simple fact of church government. Jeanne d'Arc was captured in Compiègne. That is part of my diocese. And so it was my duty to try to save her soul.
Your Lordship, it has been rumored that you asked for the privilege of trying Joan of Arc because she'd invaded your diocese and driven you out of it 2 years ago.
I am accustomed to the slander of heretics. I pay them no heed.
Well, what of the charges, Your Lordship, that the maid's trial was unfair, that 2 of the judges denounced it as illegal?
Quant à cela, monsieur, I will say to that simply that I was congratulated by my superiors of the University of Paris for the great solemnity and the just and holy spirit in which I conducted the trial.
I see. And do you think, Your Lordship, that the maid will recant in the Great Hall?
Jeanne d'Arc, monsieur, is but 19. At this age, life is sweet. I have high hopes that she will recognize the error of her ways.
And just what is it that you would like the maid to do?
That is very simple. She must confess that the visions and voices she saw and heard did not come from God, and sign an abjuration to that effect.
But the maid has steadfastly maintained, Your Lordship, that her visions were divine.
But that is not possible, monsieur. One cannot receive communications from the church triumphant in heaven, except in accord with the teachings of the church militant on earth. The heresy of this Maid of Orleans is that she did not consult with the church and submit to its judgment about her visions. If then her visions were not from saints and angels, they must have been from Belial, Satan, and Behemoth.
I see, and that is what the maid must declare now if she is to be saved.
That is correct, monsieur. We wish to save this child. We are not interested in her body, but her immortal soul. The body burns only for a few moments, but the soul of a sorceress burns through all eternity.
One more question, please, Your Lordship. There are those who suggest that Joan of Arc was condemned for political reasons.
I do not wish to comment on that.
But if I may, Your Lordship...
I repeat, I do not wish to comment. I am not interested in politics. I must go now into the...
Thank you, Your Lordship. My Lord Warwick.
Huh?
You came with the Bishop of Beauvais, sir. Aren't you going into the castle with him?
Oh, no. The saving of souls is for churchmen. My work today is to be rid of the maid, and high time, too.
But, my lord, what if the Bishop of Beauvais is right and the maid recants?
Mark me. He'll soon be coming out with the maid. We'll see a fire and smell smoke today. I'll wager every pound and every acre I own that Joan will sign no paper.
Do you consider her saint or witch, my lord?
Saint or witch, I know not. But I know the woman. As much as she loves life, she loves what she believes in more. The maid is flesh in her body, but her spirit is steel.
How is it, my lord, that when the English captured Joan of Arc, they didn't put her to death immediately?
If I'd had the say of it, she'd been tied in a bag and dropped in the river. But no, not these French. They have to try her in court. Meddle with words. Very peculiar people, these French. But at least they paid us £10,000 for her.
That's a large sum, my lord.
Not for a wench who drove us out of Orleans and smashed our armies at Patay, who set a weakling on the throne of France. And the damage is not yet done. Though Joan of Arc dies today, we'll not see the end of her yet.
And what do you mean by that, my lord?
I mean, this maid, this peasant girl, has still a mighty following in unconquered France. These French rebels, they believe her divine. Even after the faggots have made her ashes, I venture they'll cry her name and fight like devils at the sound of it. We'll be hard put to hold whatever soil we've already won.
And is that why you've given orders to have the maid's ashes thrown into the River Seine, my lord?
I want nothing left on which to rear a legend for nourishing the spirit of the French. The memory of this maid will be worth 100 battalions to them. What a pity she was not born an Englishwoman.
Thank you, my lord. The Earl of Warwick has turned to talk with the captain of the castle guard again. The proceedings in the Great Hall must be ready to start. Don Hollenbeck is there to report them, so let's go inside to the Great Hall and Don Hollenbeck.
Joan of Arc has not been brought from her dungeon yet, but everything appears in readiness. The Bishop of Beauvais is seated at a great table in the center of the hall, surrounded by dignitaries. His face is impassive, stern by the flickering light of the many torches that stuck on the walls and held by the assembled monks. Those torches throw shadows on the walls and on the ceiling of this. Joan is entering the great hall. She is in chains. Her wrists and ankles are manacled. She's wearing women's clothes, a loose gray robe and hood. That's unusual. Joan has always worn men's clothes. It may be a sign that she'll recant. Father Martin Labrenier, her confessor, is by her side. Joan has reached the table now where Cochon is sitting. The great hall is silent except for the bishop who is speaking to a priest. Joan is a sturdy girl. She's not beautiful, but there's a winning quality about her, simple and direct, the strength of conviction and inner certainty. She's pale. She shows the strain of 5 months of prison and ceaseless questioning at all hours of the day or night. Her face is calm, almost enigmatic. Pierre Cochon is speaking.
Que l'on appelle la pucelle d'Orléans. Écoute bien ceci. Maître Héra a donné lecture de l'acte d'abjuration.
The Bishop of Beauvais has asked Joan to listen to the oath of abjuration, which will be read to her now by Maître Hérard, canon of Rouen.
Communément appelé la pucelle, m'avoue coupable du péché de sédition, du péché de désobéissance, du péché d'orgueil, du péché d'hérésie. Je renonce maintenant à tous ces péchés, les abjure et les abandonne, en foi de quoi je signe de mon nom cet acte d'abjuration.
Maître Hérard has finished reading the abjuration oath and the confession that Joan has signed and is willing to recant. Now Cochon speaking.
Dans son infinie charité et dans son désir de sauver ton âme, t'offre cette dernière occasion. Que choisis-tu, l'acte ou le bûcher?
Cochon gives her a last chance, the oath or the stake, and now Joan.
Viens d'en haut, pas d'en bas. Je ne les renierai pas.
Joan has refused to sign the oath. The judges are all shouting at once, urging her to sign, to live.
Mes pères, mes compères, je vous en prie, ne parlez pas tous à la fois. Vous pourriez vous embrouiller.
Joan has cried out, please, good fathers, please, do not all speak at once. You are liable to confuse yourselves. Cochon speaking again.
Plus encore, Jeanne.
Je refuse.
Tu changeras bien d'avis lorsque tu monteras sur le bûcher et qu'on te liera au poteau. Qu'on l'emmène.
Cochon has ordered Joan to be taken from the hall. He said she would yet change her mind when she mounted the scaffold. The monks have begun their chant for the dying. The Bishop of Beauvais and the judges have risen. They are walking out of the great hall. Joan is being led after them. Her refusal to sign the oath of abjuration was quiet but unequivocal. She did not seem to waver for a moment. It seemed as if all her mental torture, her long months of struggle and doubt are over at last, and that she is now finally and ultimately resigned to die rather than renounce her blessed saints and angels. However, she has yet to face the terrible ordeal of the stake in the old marketplace. There is still time for her to change her mind and save herself. The procession has passed out of the doors of this great stone hall now, so over to John Daly.
The crowd here has caught sight of the Maid of Orleans. There are some cries of burn the witch, let her burn, but for the most part the people stand looking at Joan in dumb fascination. The procession has just crossed the drawbridge. The maid is standing, still trained, before the empty cart, which is to carry her to the old marketplace. Pierre Cochon has raised his hand. The crowd stops its shouting. Is almost silent now. The monks keep chanting, however. The bishop has taken a paper mitre from an attendant and placed it on Joan of Arc's head. There are 4 words inscribed upon that mitre. I can see them clearly. The words are heretic, relapse, apostate, idolatrous. But now the bishop has motioned to the English men-at-arms. Ecclesiastical officials are thus releasing the maid and turning her over to secular power. The church has only acted as judge. It will not act as executioner. 2 English soldiers are lifting the maid into the cart. The crowd pushes forward. He keeps muttering the words inscribed on that paper mitre. Lord Warwick waves the procession forward, and the cart begins to move, the crowd moving with it. The Maid of Orleans leans against the side of the cart, slowly raises her head, and looks down on this crowd. She seems to pity them, not to condemn. Her lips are moving, evidently in prayer. The cart and the procession are moving away, and in a few moments they'll be at the old marketplace where the stake and the executioner are waiting. Ken Roberts is at the old marketplace, so come in, Ken Roberts.
The huge mob here at the old marketplace doesn't know that Joan is on her way. The people are thronging this great square, talking, waiting. Some of them have been waiting since dawn for this spectacle. For to most of the Burgundian French here, this is a kind of show, a kind of circus. They've come to see Joan burn, and they want to see her burn. I'm standing at the foot of the scaffold itself. It's really a double scaffold on 2 levels or platforms, one higher than the other. The executioner and his attendants stand on the lower platform, and the upper one has the stake and the faggots. To the right of this double scaffold, there is another raised platform reserved to the authorities. The space immediately around the scaffold is guarded by English men-of-arms, keeping the crowd at a distance. From my vantage point, I can see the entire sweep of this vast throng. People choke the square itself and the streets leading into it. People everywhere on rooftops and at windows. It's a huge mob, a vast mob. And here is one of the French women that is part of it, come to see Joan of Arc burn today. I'm going to ask her whether she thinks Joan may cheat her out of a burning today by recanting. Pardon, madame. Pensez-vous que Jeanne sera brûlée?
Oh, j'espère bien qu'elle va brûler. J'ai pas l'intention d'être venue pour l'évêque pour rien voir.
Joan had better burn, she says. She's not come all the way from Pont-l'Evêque, that's about 50 miles west of Rouen, to have her holiday ruined.
Oui, il y a un homme qui m'a offert 10 sols d'argent pour ma place près du bûcher.
A man offered her 10 francs for her place here. Alors?
Alors, je lui ai craché à la figure.
She spit in the man's face, she said.
Oui, je suis venu tôt pour avoir une bonne place. Et ton fou, on ne me la fera pas.
Merci. She came early, she says, and she won't be cheated.
On ne me la fera pas.
Merci, madame. Now here's one of the English guards around the scaffold. Soldier, Joan of Arc is on her way here now. What do you think of that?
That's the best news I've heard all morning. The quicker she gets here, the quicker I'll get my dinner.
Well, aren't you more interested in what's going to happen to this girl than you are in your dinner? Do you think she'll weaken and recant?
No matter to me one way or the other, as long as I get something to eat and a draught of ale. This French dust parches my throat something awful, it does.
Thank you, soldier. Now, here's the chief executioner himself, also an Englishman. His name is Geoffrey Ferrage. I've spoken with him before. He wears the familiar black robe and hood of his calling. Master Ferrage, how do you feel about putting Joan of Arc to the stake?
Feel? I have no fear. It's a matter of business.
Aren't you reluctant about it?
I can't afford such sentiments. If the maid burns, I'm paid. If she doesn't, I'm not.
Thank you, Master Ferrage. Now, here's a gentleman near the scaffold who looks like a scholar of some sort. He seems to be neither English nor French. I beg your pardon, sir. Do you speak English?
I speak many languages, signore.
Would you tell us your name, please?
I am Alfredo Firenze. I travel about Europe collecting rare manuscripts for the library of the House of Medici in Florence.
Oh, I see. You're a Florentine. The Medici is a famous name. And what is your point of view on the burning of Joan of Arc today?
As a humane man, I naturally do not want her to go to the stake. But as a man with some regard for the future, I hope she will not flinch from her fiery ordeal.
That's a surprising thing to say. Would you explain it, please, signor?
Si, con piacere. This 19-year-old peasant girl from Doremi does not herself realize the role she is playing on the stage of history. But the flames that rise from this stake will help light a great new political era for Europe.
Political era?
Si.
I don't quite understand, Signor Firenze. It's generally held that the maid has been condemned for religious reasons.
Ah, it is a pity, but people do not always see the truth. one must look for the deeper, the underlying motives.
But isn't Joan's crime heresy?
See, political heresy, but let us look not at the cover, but at the pages of this book. The church, Signor, is strong. Its power is dominant throughout most of Europe. A very young girl, Jeanne d'Arc, has arisen, unwittingly challenging a very old institution. She has dared to put a new French king on the French throne. She has inspired the French people with a new and dynamic spirit. Ah, see. Jeanne d'Arc is not aware of it, but she has helped to create a new state. The established order, Signor, does not welcome new states, vero?
That's an interesting point of view, Signor Florenzi, but if that's true, why didn't the English drown the maid as soon as they captured her at Compiègne?
An excellent question, Signor, but there is an answer to it. The Maid of Orleans has done great damage, no? See, it can be undone in only one way. She has crowned the French king. There is only one way now to uncrown him, and that is by discrediting him. If Jeanne d'Arc admits that she is a witch, then the French people will say that their new king is the work of the devil, and they will tear him from the throne.
Thank you, Signor Florenzi. The crowd around me is calling out, the witch is coming. People on the rooftop surrounding the square are waving, pointing in the direction of the high road from the castle. It must be, yes, it's the procession. I can see it now, moving through a lane cleared by the English men-at-arms. Tension is spreading through the crowd. It's tightening around the very scaffold itself. People all around me are muttering as if half afraid of the maid's supernatural powers. It's the witch is coming. I've seen many crowds before, but I've never seen one as fearful and bloodthirsty as this. The burning of heretics is quite customary these days in Europe. Other women have burned before. But this Burgundian mob seems strangely both afraid and yet eager to hear the crackling of the flames. And here is the procession now. It's entering the square. John Daly has come up with the procession in our mobile unit, and he will go to our booth opposite the scaffold and the cart which is just arriving carrying Joan. In a moment, we'll switch to Daly. The monks, still chanting, are taking their places on the upper platform. The crowd is silent. Let's listen.
This is John Daly. At a signal from the Bishop of Beauvais, the monks have stopped their chanting. The cart is now directly before the scaffold. Joan, as she is lifted from the cart, keeps looking at the scaffold. Her eyes seem fascinated by it, but she utters no cry, although her lips are still moving. She's still praying. Pierre Cochon has said something to Joan. I couldn't catch it from here, but whatever it was, Joan has shaken her head fiercely. Lord Warwick has signaled now to the executioner. His assistants have seized Joan. The crowd has suddenly come to life again. This is what they've been waiting for, and they're watching now open-mouthed with anticipation as the executioner's assistants carry the Maid of Orleans up to the scaffold. The Earl of Warwick watches calmly. He just glanced at the Bishop of Beauvais, and Pierre Cochon looked at him for a moment, his face impassive. Now both men are taking their places with the other dignitaries on the platform. The maid is being chained to the stake by the waist and feet. Her hands are free. She has begun to weep, but her lips move still, evidently in prayer. The crowd is silent again. It seems puzzled by Joan's behavior. The people don't know what to make of her. The Bishop of Beauvais looks down at the Maid of Orleans and speaks to her. The Bishop of Beauvais has asked Joan once again to abjure. She doesn't answer. She's trembling, fighting her tears. This is her last chance. And again, Pierre Cochon has asked, do you abjure, Joan? She raises her head and this time speaks.
Et maintenant, je vais la retrouver. Ce soir, je serai en paradis.
And once again, finally, she has refused to recant. It was God who sent me, she cried. And now I am going back to him. Tonight, I shall be in paradise. Cochon raises his hand again. The crowd falls silent.
Nous te retranchons. Nous te déclarons
Cochon is reading the official accusation.
Blasphématrice, de te mêler de magie, de te prétendre...
I have a copy of the official accusation in English. Here is the text, quote, Joan of Arc, we reject you, we cut you off, we abandon you to the fire and the flame. We name you these, we accuse you of these, we condemn you of these. Joan of Arc, sorceress, blasphemer, dabbler in magic, pseudo-prophetess. invoker of demons, superstitious, thinking evil of faith, schismatic, sacrilegious, idolatrous, apostate, profane, disturber of the peace, cruelly athirst for human blood, scandalous, seditious, indecent, immodest, and he concludes, let the sentence for the heretic be carried out. That is the end of the accusation. Cochon has finished reading, and the executioner bends down now to arrange the faggots. Joan of Arc has cried out, give me a cross, give me a cross. The crowd is absolutely silent. No one moves, only the executioner calmly proceeds with his work. And again Joan cries out for a cross. For the love of God, a cross. A murmur sweeps the crowd, and it's an hysterical murmur. The mood of this mass of spectators seems to have suddenly changed. For only a moment ago, they were crying out almost fiendishly, burn, witch, burn. An English guard has rushed up to the scaffold and handed Joan a cross. It's a rough wooden cross, seems to have been made hastily from 2 sticks. Joan of Arc grasps it, raises it to her lips, and now hugs it to her breast. Her eyes are raised to heaven. She's no longer weeping. She's ecstatic. And the man has just cried out in terror. The man has just cried out in terror, God help us, we are burning a saint. The crowd has now completely changed. The people are screaming and shouting, stop, stop, don't let her burn. Many have thrown themselves on the ground, are weeping and praying, and even some of the men who condemned her are weeping and praying. But the executioner has put the flame to his torch, and now he is bending and lighting the faggot. The crowd has reacted in one great convulsive protest, and for a moment they're quiet, and then they begin to shout their fear that they have made a catastrophic mistake. They're overcome with guilt and with horror. Too late have revolted against the bloodlust that brought them here.
May 30th, 1431, Rouen, France. Joan of Arc is burned at the stake, but her memory is enshrined in the nation she helped create.
478 years later, Joan of Arc was proclaimed by apostolic brief the victim of expiation for the ransom of France. In 1920, Joan of Arc was canonized. The death of Joan of Arc was another broadcast in the series CBS Is There, produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon. The death of Joan of Arc was written by Max Ehrlich and Robert Louis Cheon. Next week,
April 22nd, 1889, the Oklahoma Land Run. CBS Is There.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Military court at Rennes, France, where on this 8th day of September 1899, the celebrated Dreyfus case is in its last day. The court is in recess. The judges are in chambers to make a crucial decision. Will they admit as evidence the testimony of a German agent? Captain Alfred Dreyfus stands accused of betraying the French Republic by turning over top-secret information to this agent. If the German's testimony is admitted, it is certain that Dreyfus will be acquitted. If it is not, it is equally as certain that Alfred Dreyfus will again, as he was in his first trial 5 years ago, be judged guilty of treason and returned to the heat and the hell of Devil's Island. The crowd here in the courtroom in this little town of Rennes is quietly awaiting the return of the military justices.
September 8, 1899, Rennes, France. You are there.
The last day of the infamous Dreyfus case. Will a French military court defy an outraged world opinion and send an innocent officer back to Devil's Island? Back to the twilight of a century, when the very foundations of the French Republic tremble at Émile Zola's cry, I accuse. All things are as they were then, except for one thing.
You are there.
You Are There, produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon, is based on authentic historical fact and quotation. And now,
the courtroom at Rennes, France, and John Daly.
suspense in this month-old trial. The tension is reflected in the attitude of not only the spectators, but also it's reflected on the faces and in the manner of the 150 correspondents from all over the world, from Peru to Tibet, from Siberia to Maine. About 10 minutes ago, these very same correspondents heard Maître Laborie, the brilliant defense attorney for Alfred Dreyfus, request that the court allow the testimony of the German agent, Colonel von Schwarzkopf. Here at our microphone is Maître Laborie himself and also Colonel Dupaty de Clam of the French General Staff. Maître Laborie has kindly consented to tell our American listeners why he considers Colonel von Schwarzkopf's testimony vital.
Bon. Dreyfus was accused of corresponding with a German agent. He was supposed to have betrayed certain military secrets to a foreign power. That agent, the court maintains, is Colonel von Schwarzkopf. Bon. I simply want to ask Colonel von Schwarzkopf himself whether he ever received any information from Dreyfus, or indeed whether he ever had any relations, direct or indirect, with Dreyfus.
And do you think, Maître Laborie, that Colonel von Schwarzkopf will agree to testify?
I've received notice from Colonel von Schwarzkopf that he would answer any questions put to him.
I see. Well, then, it's your hope and your expectation that if von Schwarzkopf is allowed to testify, he will clear Dreyfus.
More than that, he will be able to point a finger at the real traitor of France.
And that's...
Everyone knows. There is no secret about it. It was admitted by Major Esterhazy, the villain himself, several years ago, after Dreyfus' first trial. The poor dupe of the higher-ups told the facts to an English newspaperman. He said that the handwriting on the scrap of paper that Dreyfus was supposed to have sent to Germany was his own, Esterhazy's. And moreover, Colonel von Schwarzkopf has said, and I quote, "I can swear on my honor that Dreyfus is innocent and that he is paying for another." And pointing to Colonel Dupaty de Clam, this man sitting here by your side, he said, "You see that man? I shouldn't like to be in a skinny's head, for he had an innocent man condemned."
Von Schwarzkopf said that at the French war maneuvers 3 years ago, didn't he?
Wait. He was an invited guest of the French military. He said it to a colonel of the Swiss army. And it seems to me, in all justice and consistency, that if the French army could invite a German to witness its military maneuvers, they certainly could invite him to testify at a French court-martial where a man's life is at stake.
But, Maître Laborie, when you presented your request, the court said that Colonel von Schwarzkopf could not testify because he's in Germany.
Mais oui, that is a practical consideration. But the telegraph is also a practical invention. And if, as the good judges said, the telegraph is too public for diplomatic secrecy, let them send secret couriers.
And in answer to that suggestion, as I recall it, Maître Laborie, the president of the court stated that the military code does not permit an interruption of the trial. He said, sir, that he could not suspend the trial while couriers go back and forth across Europe.
The military court provides for a suspension of 48 hours. Certainly we can risk 48 hours of the good judge's life rather than risk perpetual living death on Devil's Island for Dreyfus. For life imprisonment is what the sentence will be again if he's adjudged guilty.
Well, now, sir, you mentioned a short while ago that Major Esterhazy was only a dupe of higher-ups in this whole affair.
Wait.
Well, now, who, in your opinion, is the real, the ultimate villain in the Dreyfus case?
It is a clique. A military clique of desperate, frightened souls. And it is a tragedy, monsieur, that they represent the army of France. There are many villains, but the chief among them is Colonel Dupaty de Clam. He engineered it all. Dupaty de Clam. With his monstrous fancies, his complete and torturing madness. Émile Zola described them well, eh? Dupaty de Clam, this most intricate of minds, haunted with romantic intrigues, delighting in the methods of the newspaper novel, like a cheap detective fiction writer, discovering so-called stolen papers, meetings in deserted spots, mysterious women who peddle overwhelming proof by night, examining evidence in a room lined with mirrors. Zola was right. It is Dupaty de Clam who conceived the plan that would rid the French general staff of its only Jewish officer. Why? Because he wanted in ignorance and hatred and prejudice to find a scapegoat that would purge the French army of its own failures. What possible motive could Dreyfus have, huh? Why would he deal in espionage? Money? His family has money. They are wealthy, a man with a wife, children, position, honor. What would be his motive? A criminal must have a motive. The accusers of Dreyfus could find no motive. And how fantastic they acted. How fantastic to put a revolver on his desk and expect him to kill himself for their own guilty consciences. No. Monsieur Dreyfus will not oblige them by killing himself. He will live to establish his innocence.
Thank you, Maitre Laborie. Thank you, sir. The defense attorney for Captain Dreyfus is returning to his seat before the judge's bench, and here now is the man whom Maitre Laborie termed the melodramatic villain of the piece. He is Lieutenant Colonel du Paty de Clam himself of the French General Staff. Well, Colonel, what do you say to Maitre Laborie's attack upon you?
Monsieur, if Maitre Laborie has called me a chief detective fiction writer, I can call him a romantic novelist destined to disillusion. He will soon be a disappointed man.
Then you are convinced, sir, that the court will not allow Colonel von Schwarzkoppen's testimony?
It is unimportant. What testimony can one give for a guilty man?
Guilty? You seem to be somewhat in the minority in that view, Colonel. Practically...
Really?
Yes, sir. Practically the whole world is convinced of Dreyfus's innocence.
The whole world? Has the army of France disappeared off the face of the globe? Just as Monsieur Laborie and Zola cry out, J'accuse, I too shall cry out, J'accuse. I accuse these misguided men of protecting a traitor and defaming the glorious name of the French army. I accuse these men of maligning the first court-martial of 1894, who found Dreyfus guilty. These were brave officers and patriots who have shed their blood on the field of battle for France. While writers, where do they shed their blood?
As I recall it, Colonel Emile Zola, the writer, said that some serve France with the sword and some with the pen, and Zola has also asked, sir, what name will posterity choose and honor, that of Zola the writer or yours, the soldier?
Evidently, Zola is a passionate man, very passionate for publicity, a good way to sell books. As for me, I will uphold the honor of the army at all costs.
And also injustice, Colonel?
Injustice? If injustice was done to this traitor, which I swear is false, injustice is preferable to disorder. Goethe said that. He is as great a writer as Zola.
We never meant to get you into a literary discussion, Colonel, but another great writer, Immanuel Kant, said, when justice is gone, it is no longer important that men should live on the earth.
I said it before, and I will say it again. Dreyfus betrayed France. The sentimental conscience of the world brought him back from Devil's Island for a second trial. But it will avail them nothing. Dreyfus was judged guilty once. He will be judged guilty again today.
Well, Colonel, you heard Maitre Laborie claim that von Schwarzkoppen's testimony will prove Dreyfus innocent. Would you care to comment on that?
Why don't we wait to hear what Colonel von Schwarzkoppen really has to say? Perhaps the judges will allow his official testimony.
Thank you, Colonel du Paty de Clam. The colonel is now walking back to his seat. He's a slight man with an impressive Prussian handlebar mustache. Indeed, there's hardly a clean-shaven face in this courtroom. Both court officials and spectators here seem to be well hidden behind luxurious growths of beard. A small group of men in the colorful costume of the desert has entered the court. One man wears a turban, and he seems to be some kind of an important personage. He's talking and laughing with the guards, And the guards have bowed to him and let him in. He's a newcomer to the trial. I haven't seen him here before. And he's coming right up front here, surrounded by his rather fierce-faced entourage. Let's try and find out who he is. Pardon, monsieur. Voudrez-vous m'aider à votre nom?
I speak English, monsieur, c'est bien. But why you want to know who I am?
Well, it's not everyone who can impress the guards as you have.
That was quite simple, mon ami. I merely gave my word that I would not create the disturbance.
Really? And are you so celebrated for creating disturbances?
Maybe with people I have reason not to like.
Oh, I see. Are there many of them?
Oh, no. Not so many now. I disposed of a few thousand when I was mayor of Algiers.
Oh, I understand. You must be Régi, once mayor of Algiers, who, as you say, disposed of 10,000 Jews in massacres. You'll have to excuse me now. The president of the court has just entered. The guards will snap to attention. Everybody has risen. The judges are taking their places on the bench. They remain standing on either side of the president. He's waiting for silence before he reads this momentous decision. If the court allows the evidence of Colonel von Schwarzkopf, Dreyfus will probably never go back to Devil's Island. If the court refuses to allow it, Dreyfus will be doomed to dishonor and again return to the torture of the equator. The courtroom is absolutely silent now, and the president speaks.
À déposer des conclusions pour que l'on accepte le témoignage du colonel Max von Schwarzkopf, attaché militaire d'Allemagne à Paris, de 1891 à 1897. Le tribunal... J'ai tué Dreyfus! Laissez-moi passer ou je vous tuerai tous!
Gunshots have thrown the courtroom into turmoil. Just what has happened, we hope to know in just a minute. After the shots, the voice shouted, "I killed Dreyfus. Out of my way or I'll kill you all." I'm not sure just where that voice came from, or if Dreyfus has indeed been shot. The court is in an uproar. Men are shouting and milling about. Everyone is shouting. Women are screaming. I still can't see the man who fired. The guards have rushed to the rear of the court, and evidently they're after the assassin. I can't see Dreyfus either. There's a big mob around him, and we can't get a microphone over there. John! Yes, John Hollenbeck. Yes. See if you can get through to Dreyfus. Find out if he's been killed. Right, John Hollenbeck is fighting his way through this mob. We'll know in a moment what Dreyfus's condition is. I think there were 4 shots fired altogether. 4 shots, then a scream, and to repeat, a man shouted in French, "I killed Dreyfus. I killed Dreyfus." The police have drawn out their revolvers. They're working desperately to restore order here. They're meeting with some success now. A lane is being cleared by the guards and the police right down the middle of the courtroom. They're clearing the way for a tall man. It's Monsieur Cornet of the Judicial Police. He's jumped up on a table, and he's shouting for order, waving his arms. It's been shot. Laborie, Dreyfus's defense attorney, not the defendant himself. Laborie has been shot. That was an official announcement from the police. Laborie, the most famous lawyer in France, has been shot by an assassin who, strangely enough, shouted that it was Dreyfus whom he had killed. Ah, here's John Hollenbeck. Laborie's alive, John. Laborie's alive. The bullet hit him in the fleshy part of the back, but the wound's not fatal. Where have they taken him, Don? They've taken him to an anteroom, and the doctors are taking care of him there. Did he say anything? Just after he'd been shot, he said, "I may die, but Dreyfus is saved. Dreyfus is saved." Did you find out what they've decided to do about the trial, Doc? Well, Maitre Demange, Laborie's colleague, wanted to ask for a recess. I should think so. Yes, but Laborie said no. He insisted the trial go on. Here comes Demange now out of the anteroom. That's right, John. Maitre Demange is approaching the bar. The crowd is quieting down. They're under control, although some people are still weeping and crying, "Ah, les misérables, les misérables." The president of the court speaks.
Que votre confrère a été blessé. Vous pouvez demander une remise de l'audience demain.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Mais Maître Laborie préfère que l'on continue les procès. Avec votre permission, je vais prendre sa place.
The court is offered to suspend for the day, but Maitre Demange says it is the wish of Laborie that the trial be resumed. He's asked for the court's ruling on the Schwarzkopf testimony, and so the president speaks again.
Que seul le président de la Cour peut ordonner une commission rogatoire. Mais, d'après le code militaire, les juges composant le tribunal n'ont pas qualité pour l'ordonner.
Donc, Monsieur le Président,
The president of the court says he is the only one who can permit Schwarzkopf's testimony, and Monsieur Demange is pressing him for an answer.
Ne peut pas être admis ici.
The president of the court has just announced that he will not admit the evidence of a German attaché in a French court. The audience is on its feet, shocked, shouting out wildly and protesting. Dreyfus, the prisoner, is frozen in his chair. He appears shocked, and his face looks as if he's already been returned to the solitary and barricaded hut on Devil's Island, which he occupied for 5 long, terrible years. This refusal to allow Schwarzkopf's testimony means Dreyfus's chances are gone. It also is an affront to Imperial Germany, as Colonel von Schwarzkopf is an important figure in German intelligence. We take you now to Berlin. Ned Chalmer reporting.
The Imperial German government has prepared a statement to be released officially on the decision of the French court in regard to Colonel von Schwarzkopf's testimony. Although Germany and France are traditional enemies, they have never officially interfered with one another's internal peacetime affairs. Today, however, the Imperial German government, to uphold its honor among nations as it states, goes on record before the whole world with the following announcement, I quote, "For the preservation of his own dignity and in fulfillment of a duty to humanity, the Secretary of State makes the following statement. I declare in the most positive manner that no relations or connections of any kind ever existed between the French Captain Dreyfus and any German agent." That's the end of the announcement, and that bears out Colonel von Schwarzkopf's statement, which has been barred as evidence. I return you now to John Daly in the courtroom at Rennes.
The official statement which you just heard from Berlin can have no effect upon the deliberations of this court. The court retired immediately after refusing to hear Colonel von Schwarzkopf's testimony. An opinion here in the courtroom is divided. Some observers think that the court refused to hear the testimony because it had already decided to acquit Dreyfus. Others believe that Dreyfus is doomed once again. Maitre Laborie is back. He's here in the courtroom. His wounds not as serious as we thought. He insisted on coming into the courtroom in order to hear the final verdict, was greeted by a sustained ovation when he entered. It was one of the happiest moments, by the way, of this month-old sad trial. Maitre Laborie is now sitting on a well-cushioned armchair provided by the court. Dreyfus has just stretched out his hand to Maitre Laborie. The smile of keen pleasure lights up his usually impassive features. Dreyfus, of course, is the symbol of martyrdom in this trial, but it must also be remembered that he is more than a symbol. He is a man who has suffered much, a man with a wife and children, fighting for his and their honor. The judges are entering the court again. They've not been out long. The spectators have risen, and a hush falls over the court. This is the moment in which it will be determined whether the twilight of the 19th century will also see the twilight of the Republic of France, or instead the triumph of justice. Dreyfus has risen. At this final critical moment, his face has again become pale and impassive. The judges are standing in their places, full military uniforms, white plume in the hat of the president of the court, black plumes in the hats of the other judges, medals, gold-striped swords, soldiers standing erect in their formal bearing, their hands unsullied in white gloves. The president is holding a white paper, and now he's reading the verdict of the century.
Septembre 1899, le Conseil de guerre, ayant délibéré en secret, déclare l'accusé coupable à la majorité de 5 voix contre 2.
Guilty. Dreyfus is guilty by a vote of 5-2. The audience aghast let out a long, deep O. The president cried out silence. The gendarmes are closing in on the spectators, and now the president continues.
Le tribunal condamne Alfred Dreyfus à la peine de 10 ans de travaux forcés.
10 years. The original sentence has been cut from life to 10 years.
Je vous préviens, pas de manifestation, sortez paisiblement.
The reading of the verdict is finished. The judges are leaving the court. The gendarmes are pressing the spectators, and no one is uttering a sound, because the president of the court ordered that there be no demonstrations, no outcries of any kind whatsoever. The court is being cleared quietly and quickly. Dreyfus was immediately surrounded by the guards and taken out of the room, and the atmosphere of this court now is like a tomb. The original sentence of life imprisonment was unanimous, but this time it has been cut to 10 years, and 2 of the judges, as you noted, dissented. In a sense, this may be said to represent some measure of triumph, but still, a human being, innocent in the eyes of the world, must now spend 10 more years of degradation and isolation in a guarded hut on Devil's Island separated from his wife, his 2 children, and his home. Messages of protest are already beginning to pour into the news headquarters here in Rennes. And so for a report on world reaction, we take you now to Don Hollenbeck, who has gone back to news headquarters.
Before we give reports on the reaction from overseas, authorities have so far failed to capture or identify the assassin who apparently was trying to kill Dreyfus but shot Mayor Laborie instead. Observers are speculating as to whether the shooting was the work of a fanatic or if it was a far-reaching and well-thought-out plot on the part of the military to end the case by assassination of the prisoner. And now for what the world thinks of it all. Telegrams are pouring in from all over the globe denouncing the verdict, denouncing it as a monstrous defiance of conscience and reason. There's a telegram from the Italian actress Eleonora Duse, one from the GAR in Nebraska, another from the Protestant Episcopal Church in the United States. Emile Zola has wired Maître Laborie the following statement, and I quote, "Henceforth count me as a most determined partisan for a vigorous fight, and no mercy to the foe when we have him down. From this day I re-enter the arena, never again to leave it." That's Emile Zola's statement. There are protests from businessmen in America, England, Russia, Turkey, Hungary, Austria, and Germany. They threaten to withdraw their exhibits from the forthcoming Paris Exposition of a Century of Progress. And now for comments in other parts of the world, we switch you first to New York. Douglas Edwards reporting.
Here in New York, we're having violent protest demonstrations, and reports of more protests are coming in from all over the United States. The sight of a handsome French officer on Broadway in front of the Criterion Theater had created a riot. Men cried out, "Shame on France," and "Long live Dreyfus." Mark Twain, the famous author, has offered to help the Dreyfus family in any way he can. The old Plymouth Church in Brooklyn has followed its time-honored custom of taking definite action on all public questions. It's crowded to the doors. Dwight L. Moody, the evangelist, condemned the court-martial of Dreyfus as follows: "We who are here for Christian worship condemn the trial and trust and pray that it yet may be overruled by a higher authority acting for the honor of France and in fear of God." And now for reactions in England, we take you to London. Arthur Hannes reporting.
The Daily News has summed up the trial in a brief statement. I quote, "It is no longer Dreyfus, but France herself that is on trial." And the Times, normally a conservative newspaper, burned its pages with this editorial comment: "We do not hesitate to pronounce the Dreyfus trial as the grossest and most appalling prostitution of justice the world has witnessed in modern times. All outrageous scandals in history pale into insignificance beside the crowning scandal of the verdict." Just a moment. I've just been advised that our correspondent Ken Roberts in Carpentras, France, has succeeded in arranging an exclusive interview with the wife of the condemned man, Madame Lucy Dreyfus. I switch you now to Carpentras and Ken Roberts.
The town of Carpentras is an old walled city that was once the residence of Pope Clement V. Madame Dreyfus and I are in the home of a friend of her husband's family. Madame Dreyfus, why are you here in Carpentras?
Because it was here that I expected to shelter my husband should he have been liberated. The people here are not the victims of prejudice. They do not hate.
I see. Madame Dreyfus, may I ask why you are not at Rennes with your husband?
I was at Rennes. But at Rennes, Alfred feared for my life. He told me to take the children here. He did not want them at Rennes to see a dishonorable spectacle.
And now that your husband has been found guilty again, what will you do, Madame Dreyfus?
I will do what I promised to do when he was first unjustly convicted 5 years ago. I will devote my life to proving that he is innocent.
Well, is it true, Madame Dreyfus, that you made a pact with your husband that if he fights to live in spite of the tortures of Devil's Island, you will fight to liberate him?
Yes, that is true. He could have easily committed suicide on Devil's Island by taking off his hat and baring his head to the sun for only 10 minutes. It was torture to remain alive. 5 years in solitary confinement. And when the false rumors spread in France that an American rescue ship was off Devil's Island, they punished my husband by keeping an armed guard constantly in his cell, day and night, pointing a pistol at him, hoping he would make a move so they could have an excuse for killing him.
The world knows, Madame Dreyfus, that it was your love and your devotion to your husband's cause that kept him alive.
He needed more than that. He asked me to send him English books to keep his tortured mind occupied. That is how he learned English. And me too, I read them also.
Do you plan an appeal, Madame Dreyfus?
Yes, immédiatement. Maître Laborie, I am so glad he was not hurt. He is a great man. He will leave for Paris at once. And for my part, I will devote my life to reaching every wife and mother. I will move the heart of every wife and mother of the world. For every wife and mother of the world would fight so that their husbands, their sons, shall not suffer injustice. I will tell all.
This is John Daly at News Headquarters in Rennes. We have interrupted Madame Dreyfus to bring you a bulletin. Captain Dreyfus has been pardoned. I'll repeat that. Captain Dreyfus has been pardoned. The President of France has just announced that due to extenuating circumstances, Captain Alfred Dreyfus has been pardoned in principle. It's not yet clear what is meant by the phrase in principle or what the extenuating circumstances are, but one thing is sure now, Dreyfus has been pardoned. Here's another announcement just been given to me. Dreyfus accepts the pardon. His attorney, Maître Laborie, urged him not to accept, but to fight on for complete vindication. But Dreyfus's doctor declared that his body could not stand the ordeal of further imprisonment. Here, still another announcement, and this one comes from the French Ministry of War. In a special order to the French Army, the Minister of War said, the incident is closed. I ask you, and if need be, I order you to forget the past in order to think only of the future. I cry heartily, Vive l'armée. The army belongs to no party but only to France, and I repeat, the incident is closed. That's the end of the order.
September 8, 1899, Rennes, France. Alfred Dreyfus is pardoned, but the fight against prejudice goes on.
You have been listening to the Dreyfus Case, another broadcast in the series You Are There, produced and directed by Robert Louis Cheon. The Dreyfus Case was written by Joseph List and Mr. Cheon. The part of Maître Laborie was played by Joseph DeSantis. Maurice Tarplin was Colonel Dupaty de Tom. Charlotte Holland was Madame Dreyfus. Also in the cast were Juano Hernandez, Tonio Silvert, and Guy Sorrell.
The Dreyfus Case was broadcast originally by CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System, and rebroadcast for our men and women in the armed services in our series, You Are There. This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
John Daly in the great hall of Fotheringay Castle in Northampton, England, on this 8th day of February, 1587. It is less than 30 minutes now to the hour when Mary, Queen of Scots, is destined to mount the scaffold erected here last night and to suffer execution for the alleged attempt to assassinate Queen Elizabeth of England. Less than 30 minutes, and still the Scottish Queen has not asked for the pardon that can save her life. she is still apparently determined to choose death rather than risk any shadow of guilt upon the faith and church to which she is so passionately devoted. It is known on good authority that Mary can have a pardon. She can save her life if, and this is the great condition, if she will confess her guilt, and in so doing, throw that mantle of guilt over the whole of the apostolic faith. Here in the great hall of Fotheringay Castle, assembled on all sides of the scaffold that is like a small stage whose principal property is a plain wooden block shrouded in black velvet, there are
February 8, 1587, Fotheringay Castle, England. You are there.
In the face of death, will Mary, Queen of Scots, sacrifice her head to save the face of her church? The woman held in her hand the immediate destiny of two great forces met in a life and death struggle for world power. All things are as they were then, except for one thing.
You are there.
You Are There is based on authentic historical fact and quotation. And now,
in plain view of a scaffold in Fotheringay Castle and John Daly.
Bleak Hall. These 200 or so of the nobility have been assembled in haste from the neighborhood. They're speaking in hushed tones, speculating on whether or not this woman will choose to end her mortal life and thereby become immortal as a martyr to her faith. All last night, this great hall here at Fotheringay Castle was filled with the constant clamor of carpenters' hammers erecting the scaffold. Mary slept in her guarded chambers above the clamor. Bull, the London executioner, and his assistant are waiting now upon the platform. They're masked, black masks. Bull, the executioner, is here because the plan, the drama conceived by one man, has at last reached its final act. That man is Queen Elizabeth, Her Majesty's Secretary of State, Sir Francis Walsingham. All Europe knows that to Sir Francis and Sir Francis alone goes the credit for the setting and springing of the trap that snared the Scottish Queen in a plot to murder Queen Elizabeth.
What?
Sir Francis, do you think that Mary will yet ask for a pardon at this late hour?
No man can swear what is in the mind of this woman. She loves to crowd the center of the stage with her pretended glory. Her place, however, is not in the galleries, not on the stage, but in the pit.
And by the pit, Sir Francis, do you imply a place with the commoners below the stage or the grave?
A worthy pun. The pit, the grave, is where her body deserves to mold. But Mary is also fickle, deceitful, ambitious. She will yet choose to live. That woman will yet beg for a pardon.
And what, may I ask, Sir Francis, has brought you to this conclusion?
Logic. The laws of logic. The woman is guilty.
I take it you mean that all the guilty ask for a pardon.
No. I speak only of Mary, not all the guilty. That woman has devoted her life to the quest of pardons for all the crimes of her life.
Crimes, Sir Francis?
Many. From her swaddling clothes, she was wrapped in the mantle of death. Her father, James V, was killed on that day of her birth. When he was told on his deathbed that a daughter had been born to him, his dying words were, "Farewell, life came with ane last, and it will pass with ane last." It was a true, dismal prophecy. For Mary's life is shrouded with a dozen deaths and murders. Why, whoever ventured close to her suffered death, violent death. Her first husband, the sickly King Francis of France, then the French poet, Chastelard, who was discovered in Mary's chamber and sent to the block. Then David Vizio, the fiddler, and her beloved, assassinated and stabbed 50 times by daggers in the hands of the friends of her jealous second husband, Lord Darnley. And he was blown to bits by the man who became her third husband, Bothwell, who in turn fled from the murder and died in exile. Add to their numbers the deaths of the conspirators, Bellart and Savage and Sir Anthony Babington. This is the woman to whom the gracious Elizabeth granted sanctuary 19 years ago when Mary fled Scotland after murdering her husband. Aye, the life of Mary Stuart verily reeks of death and murder. And all her murders tended toward a singular effort to secure the throne of England from Elizabeth and rule both Scotland and England.
Sir Francis, there is one thing that was not revealed at Mary's trial. You are known to be one of the most accomplished masters in Europe at tracking down criminals.
Sir Francis, just what device did you use to trap Mary?
A barrel of beer?
A barrel of beer?
Yes. You see, I devised a beer barrel with a false bottom through an agent in Mary's confidence who was also in my employ. Needless to say, the fellow did well. He was paid by both parties. I arranged that Mary should use this unique method of postal delivery in her correspondence with the conspirator. Simple matter to intercept the barrel, have the letters copied, and then send them on again.
That's quite ingenious.
Well, not so.
But it would seem, Sir Francis, that you set a trap for Mary.
Only the guilty fall into traps.
Thank you, Sir Francis.
Thank you for the privilege.
There are only 22 minutes left to 8 o'clock. The Queen of the Scots has still not entered this hall, but if Sir Francis Walsingham is correct in his prediction that Mary will ask for a pardon, then she will not mount the scaffold this day. Here in Fotheringay, however, and everywhere in Europe, people are divided over the life and death of this tragic woman. There are many who hold to the opinion that she will die rather than confess her guilt. And for an analysis of that point of view, we take you now to London and to Quincy Howe. Yes, John, some of the best informed people here in London believe that Mary will not ask for a pardon and that the Queen of Scots will mount the scaffold in 21 minutes. Their reasoning runs this way. Mary is the champion, the symbol of the Catholic faith. Elizabeth is the greatest Protestant monarch in the world today. The Catholics want the throne of England, which they lost when Henry VIII, Elizabeth's father, renounced Rome. If they succeed in putting Mary, or any Catholic ruler for that matter, on the English throne, they will not only regain England, but much of what they have lost to the Reformation in Europe as well. In addition, they'll have a free hand in the new world of America, where the exploring, adventuring, colonizing fleets of Elizabeth lay claims to land and gold and wealth that the Pope has granted to Spain. Naturally, the Protestant powers are determined to spread the doctrines of the Reformation all over the world. They've already gained much of Europe, and they mean to hold all that while extending their power to America. Mary now finds herself caught up in this conflict and has been tried and found guilty of an attempt on Elizabeth's life. She protests her innocence, but to save her life, she must confess her guilt. Why, then, do so many informed observers predict that she will not confess? Because, they say, innocent or guilty, Mary cannot risk damaging the prestige of her church by admitting she had anything to do with an attempt on the life of a Protestant monarch. Is Mary innocent or is she guilty? Even now, in these last moments, there's a sharp difference of opinion. To let our listeners judge for themselves, we'll play some recorded excerpts of Mary's trial, which we broadcast from Fotheringay last October 14th. The first voice you will hear will be that of John Daly, who reported the trial.
Has risen, and a hush has fallen over the assembled lords and the 36 judges for the Crown of England. Lord Bromley is walking toward the Queen of Scots, and she awaits him calmly, her eyes brilliant. This regent of France and Scotland is past 40. She still retains the beauty and dignity that have captivated so many hearts. Her auburn hair, more red it is, has been busked by the hands of skillful tirewomen and arranged a la Mary Stuart. Lord Bromley is speaking.
I present to you the matter at hand. The most high and mighty Queen, Elizabeth, being not without grief of mind, advertised that you have conspired the destruction of her and of England and the subversion of our religion.
That's the charge. Note that an act originally passed 15 years ago required anyone accused of high treason to be confronted with witnesses. But there are no witnesses against Mary. They're all dead or in prison. Mary replies to the charge.
I came into England to crave aid, which had been promised me, and yet have I been kept in prison ever since, to my grievous wrong. I solemnly protest that I am no subject of my cousin, the Queen of England, nor can I be constrained to appear before your lordships or any other judge whatsoever for any cause whatsoever, save before God alone, the highest judge. This I protest, lest I should prejudice mine own royal majesty and my son and successors as well as all other absolute princes. But now I appear personally to the end that I may refute the crimes objected against me, and I call you all to bear witness.
Mary is then accused of having plotted during these past 18 years of her protection, or as Mary calls it, her imprisonment in England, with foreign princes and the Pope to gain her liberty. To this she answers,
I I am accused of having written to the Pope to press for my liberty, I confess I have done so, and I should do it again. What human creature, oh good God, would not do the same to escape from a captivity such as mine? But I'm not here to answer for any plots to set me at liberty, but for plots against the life of the Queen, my sister.
A new charge is made, a charge which also has no relation to the main charge of murder for which Mary is on trial. Mary is accused of conspiring with Philip of Spain for the invasion of England by a Spanish armada.
I know nothing of a conspiracy or invasion of the realm. I've warned my friends to take care not to make any enterprise.
Mary seems to contradict herself. Lord Bromley points out that with one breath she disclaims knowledge of an invasion of England, but with the next she speaks of warning her friends not to attempt a plot to invade.
That I knew it had been done, I admit. But that I knew it was going to be done, I deny. As to what foreign princes had done or attempted, I wash my hands of them and decline to be responsible. You're wasting your time. I am not bound to render to you an account of my business and my intelligence with Christian princes. You lay to my charge my letters to Babington, that I have conspired to slay Elizabeth. I defy you to show me a single word in them about Elizabeth, and then I shall allow you right to prosecute me.
But Lord Bromley presents much more than a single word. He presents a letter, the famous Babington letter, alleged to have been written by Mary. This was the climactic evidence which strung Babington's neck in a noose, and which Lord Bromley hopes will place Mary's head on the block. Lord Bromley reads the damning portion of the Babington letter.
This, noble gentlemen, all my private friends, who for the zeal they bear to the Catholic cause and your Majesty's service, will undertake the tragical execution. The tragical execution. What say you to that, your Majesty? Does not that tragical execution mean that Babington plotted to murder the Queen of England and, as he said, in your Majesty's service?
Whether Babington wrote this or no, I know not. Perhaps he did. But let it be proved that I received it. If Babington or any others affirm it, they lie openly. Other men's crimes are not to be cast upon me. I am a woman, stripped of all aid, left naked and defenseless to mine enemies. I have not what the poorest criminal has, an advocate, someone to speak for him. And my judges are men who seek my ruin. Oh, you do me wrong, sir, in treating me in this fashion. You do me foul wrong. I pray that you give no more credit to those that slander me than I do to such who accuse you. Spies are men of doubtful credit which dissemble one thing and speak another. Do not believe them when they say that I consented to the Queen's destruction. I would never make shipwreck of my soul by conspiring the destruction of my dear sister. My lord, I bear no malice to anyone in this assembly. I pardon you for what you have done or said against me. And I say that there is not one in all the company whom I do not wish well. Finally, my lord, I require that I may be heard in full Parliament or in person speak to the Queen, my sister, and with the council.
Mary has risen from her throne. She is walking slowly towards the lawyers for the crown. The great hall here at Fotheringay is hushed. No one speaks. No one moves. The Queen of the Scots has stopped before a group of lawyers for the crown. She's smiling at them, smiling graciously now, or is it contemptuously?
Yes. You have behaved rudely enough in your duty and have treated me too roughly for a person who is not accustomed to it, nor learned in the laws of chicanery. But God pardon you and keep me from having any more to do with you.
Recorded excerpts from the trial of Mary, Queen of Scots. You've heard the evidence, and now, for some opinions on the question of Mary's guilt or innocence, we take you first to Windsor Castle in London, the Protestant center of the world. Ken Roberts speaking. Go ahead, Ken Roberts.
I'm in the voting unit outside Windsor Castle. Through the open doors, you can hear the great and excited crowd. Right by our door is a man playing a tabor and pipe, and another man clanging a cowbell, and
shouting, "The Queen is saved! Death to Mary! Death to Jezebel!" I'm going to try and get them to our microphone. First, the man with the tabor and pipe. You, playing the tabor and pipe. Do you think Mary is innocent or guilty? The man is very excited. Perhaps we can get him to talk later. Meanwhile, let's try the clanger of the cowbell. He's dressed in woman's clothes. Sir, would you stop that cowbell?
I am an actor. Always ready to address the multitude.
An actor, I see. Is that why you're wearing woman's clothes?
Precisely. I have a woman's part. Come to see me. I'm playing at the Curtain Theatre in Finsbury.
Thank you, I shall.
I am playing Christopher Marlowe's Tambourine.
A fine play, but I was
hoping that yet. Perhaps you'd like to attend Thomas Kidd's The Spanish Tragedy. I have a very clever part in that.
But what do you think of the Scottish tragedy?
What?
The Scottish tragedy.
No tragedy at all. A happy ending. Mary is a sweet morsel for the devil's mouth.
Strong words, Sir Actor. Do you think Mary is guilty?
Burn her! Burn her! She's not worthy to live. Kill her! Burn her! Stone her! Stone dead hath no fellow. Cut off her head and make no more ado about her.
Thank you, Sir Actor.
Thank you.
And now our friend of the tabor and pipe is ready to talk to us. Sir, would you tell us, please, is Mary guilty or...
Guilty, so preached the bishop. Aye, he preached England has escaped a new St. Bartholomew's Day. We are saved. We are saved from the torture of the Inquisition. Death to Mary. St. David committed murder and slaying Uriah for his wife, and so was she. St. David was a sinner, and so is she.
Thank you, Sir Player. It can be stated authoritatively that the opinions you have just heard expressed here are quite representative of the crowd outside this mobile unit in front of Windsor Castle. The people are crushing against the gates of the castle, shouting for a view of Queen Elizabeth. Huge bonfires lit last night are still merrily blazing. We'll open our microphones outside now and let you hear the crowd. Listen. Here in London before Windsor Castle. Up in Northampton, however, outside of Fotheringay Castle, where the execution will take place, there are people of the Catholic faith. For a report on their views on the guilt or innocence of Mary, Queen of Scots, we take you now to Ned Calmer outside Fotheringay.
Here in the shadow of the grim gray walls of Fotheringay, it's bitterly cold. A few inhabitants of the nearby town are gathered here. Some have come out of curiosity, many out of reverence for the Queen of Scots. Many also are kneeling in prayer. A man and his wife are here at our microphone. They will not give their names. I'm going to address the wife first. Good madam, do you believe that Mary is guilty?
Guilty, perhaps, but not of crimes, only of blunders. A woman's blunders are twice cursed, as blunders and as a woman.
And you, sir, do you hold an opinion on this question?
This execution is a blunder. We live well now under Elizabeth. We are content. Why cannot the Queen of England be content to let Mary live? For Mary is her dear sister, so tender a cousin and friend. There are not many of our faith left here in England, but there is meat on our table, whereas but a few years ago there was only salt fish.
Yes, but to what avail is our new house of brick and stone if persecution
is better than our old house of twigs? Do we not enjoy our new pewter plates instead of the old wooden ones? And we even have 2 silver plates. And our chimney corner and our carpets and pillows. Imagine, sir, we use pillows now. We have windows of glass. We see what forebodes.
Forebodes indeed. This will be the end of us. There will be no followers of the true faith left in England soon. There will be bitterness and...
This is Don Hollenbeck in Fotheringay Castle. I'm in the chambers of the Queen of Scotland. Her Majesty has granted us an interview. Your Grace, can you tell us at this moment whether you will ask for pardon?
My dear sister and beloved cousin, the good Queen, wishes to invest herself with a halo of benefactress before the world. A noble woman who saves the life of a sister queen. But were I to grant her a place among the saints by begging for a pardon, she would lose it soon. For the Queen, my sister, is determined upon my death. There would be a dagger in my back or poison in my cup, for she would resort to her ultimate purpose to do away with my life. I am a Scottish burr upon her English bed.
and she sleeps uneasily as long as I live.
Then you still believe, Your Grace, that you're the victim of a conspiracy?
I came to England seeking sanctuary. It was promised me. But the very moment I set foot upon English soil, the agents of Elizabeth began to spin their webs to lure me to a dismal grave.
But, Your Grace, Sir Francis Walsingham is...
Sir Francis Walsingham. He is an ambitious, a cunning, a heartless liar. He has ruined more innocent persons than the whole of Elizabeth's Privy Council. He's covered the seas and the continent with English exiles and spread over Europe a leprous spine. And this in Elizabeth's realm. The good Queen Elizabeth. Yes, I am the victim of a conspiracy, the greatest conspiracy ever perpetrated on an innocent woman. The conspiracy of Elizabeth and Walsingham.
But in spite of that alleged conspiracy against you, Your Grace, there's still time to save your life.
Save my life? How can I save my life? By confessing my guilt? I have none to confess. I am an innocent woman. How can I save my life when the envoys of Elizabeth threaten to slay me in my bed if I refuse to ask for pardon? Oh, they may consummate their injustice when they please. The Earl of Kent has said that my life would have been the death, as my death will be the life of the Protestant religion. But this knave of Elizabeth is wrong. For my death shall be my triumph over my sister queen, and the victory of my faith over hers.
Thank you, Your Grace. This is Don Hollenbeck. I switch you back to John Daly in the Great Hall.
You have just heard from the Queen's own lips that she will enter this hall in a few moments. Beside me at our microphone is Sir William Pickering, the Speaker of the House of Commons. Sir William, what do you think Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth will say when she learns of Mary's decision to die?
Her Majesty has no knowledge that the Scottish one is to be beheaded this morning.
No knowledge, sire?
Precisely. No knowledge whatsoever.
But that's impossible. The whole world knows.
I repeat, the Queen has no knowledge that the Scottish one is to be beheaded this morning.
Well, Sir William, if Queen Elizabeth did know, what would be her wish? Would she oppose this execution?
Certainly. She would never allow it to come to pass. Elizabeth has pardoned many rebels and winked at many treasons. After Mary's trial...
Excuse me, Sir William. The Queen of Scots is about to enter this hall of execution. She's accompanied by her ladies-in-waiting and the Earl of Kent and the Earl of Shrewsbury together. Wait a minute. The Queen has stopped at the entrance. She's speaking to the Earl of Kent. The entrance is too far off for us to hear what she's saying, but Don Hollenbeck is there. Come in, Hollenbeck.
The Queen has refused to enter the hall unless accompanied by her two ladies-in-waiting.
No.
I pray you, my lord.
No.
I pray you permit them, that their eyes and ears may see how patiently their queen and mistress dies, true and constant to her religion.
I forbid it.
Then I do not enter the hall.
You will. I command it. In the name of Her Majesty.
Let us give our consent, my lord. What harm can come of it?
Our women would make a scene.
My lord, let us be kind.
I tell you, they will dip their handkerchiefs in her Grace's blood. Whereon it is very unmeet for us to give allowance.
Come, my lord, the hour is upon us. Our queen commands. Jane Kennedy, Elizabeth Curl, you may follow her Grace into the hall. Let us proceed at once.
This is John Daly again. The Queen of Scots has passed through the door, and now she's approaching the scaffold. She walks with difficulty. Two troopers are assisting her, and her ladies-in-waiting walk close behind. The Earls of Kent and Shrewsbury walk a little to the left of the Queen, and she is followed by the Protestant Dean of Peterborough. The nobles in this great hall have fallen grimly silent. Her servants are weeping, but Mary, the Queen of the Scots, holds her head high. She's reached the scaffold now, is ascending the 2 steps of the platform upon which stands the executioner, Bull, with his assistant. Mary has turned. She now faces the nobles with great dignity. She's cast off the soldiers like a cloak and stands erect on her own weakened feet. Bull has moved toward her. He reaches for her mantle. It is the custom to unclothe. Mary waves him back.
Unrobe me. Come. I was not wont to have my clothes plucked off by such grooms.
The Queen's ladies-in-waiting, Jane Kennedy and Elizabeth Curl, have come forward, and they are removing from her head the dress of lawn, the chain of pomander.
Now they're unclasping the Agnus Dei about her neck. The veil of lawn is being unfastened from her caul, and her black gown of satin is... The Dean of Peterborough has moved forward, and he is speaking to Mary.
The throne of the great Judge of Heaven is laid open.
No, give me a brief.
Of all your life.
Please, Master Dean, trouble me not.
The particular sentence.
I will not hear you. I am resolved in my own faith.
All the enemies of the Queen.
Please, Master Dean, you have nothing to do with me, and I with you.
All the enemies of the gospel.
None of course, Domine.
Mary has knelt, a crucifix clasped to her breast. She is clothed now in a crimson petticoat. The executioner bull, masked, has knelt before Mary. His assistant has also knelt. It is the custom of executioners to beg forgiveness.
I forgive you with all my heart. But I hope this death shall give an end to my trouble. No. Mary has spoken a last word of French to her ladies in waiting. She's begged them not to cry.
February 8, 1587, Mary, Queen of Scotland and the Isles, dies, and the Reformation lives on.
Listening to The Execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, another in the series You Are There. This program was presented originally by CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System, and came to you through the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
This is John Daly in the Salem Court of Massachusetts Bay Province. The recess in the witchcraft trial of 71-year-old Rebecca Norse, which started at 10 o'clock in the morning of this 29th day of June, 1692, is just about over, and the trial should soon resume. As you know, Rebecca Norse, great-grandmother and mother of 8, whose husband owns a 300-acre farm not far from the Crane River Bridge, went on trial this morning as a witch. The penalty for witchcraft is death. This courthouse on Townhouse Lane is jammed to the rafters.
Salem, Massachusetts, June 1692. CBS is there.
A Salem court tries a woman as a witch. CBS invites you to believe that our microphone is there waiting for the verdict. All things are as they were then, except for one thing.
CBS is there.
This broadcast, the fourth in a special summer series produced and directed for Columbia by Robert Louis Cheon, is based on authentic historical fact and quotation. And now,
Salem, June 29th, 1692, and John Daly.
We'll tell them how this trial is progressing. The tension with which this day opened here in Salem has grown greater, if possible. In this trial, second in the biggest roundup of suspects these colonies have ever seen, 2 key witnesses for the prosecution this morning testified that the defendant, Rebecca Norse, was responsible for fits, seizures, and the unnatural torment which have been plaguing a dozen or so Salem girls for the last few months. Another woman named by these girls, Bridget Bishop, has already been hanged. And waiting in jail at this very moment to be tried by this same court on these same charges of witchcraft are 150 local residents who were seized in their homes in nearby Lynn, Topsfield, Marblehead, Amesbury, Andover, Wells, as well as Salem, and as far off as Boston. This morning, a prosecution witness, the Reverend Mr. Samuel Parris, minister of Salem Village, testified that the alleged unnatural activities of Rebecca Norse against the afflicted children are actually part of a much larger plot against the government. Is that correct, Mr. Parris?
If that plot had not been discovered, the plotters would soon have succeeded in sinking this government.
On the stand this morning, Mr. Parris, you spoke of proof.
They have been holding meetings, sir. They have been holding meetings and plotting to root out the Christian religion from this country.
I see. You said, too, that they were prepared to blow up all the churches and wreck our government.
And set up instead their own diabolism.
So, well, I'm told, sir, that before you came to this church, you were a merchant in the Barbados Isles.
I gave up commerce for the ministry.
You brought back with you some slaves, sir.
2.
Is it true, Mr. Parris, that there has been a dispute going on between you and members of your congregation as to what were the terms of your salary agreed upon 2.5 years ago?
When I accepted the call to this parish 2 years and 7 months ago, my salary was clearly determined.
But there is a dispute, isn't there, as to whether it gives you permanent ownership of the parsonage or merely the use of the ministry and the pasture.
The salary for my services includes full and permanent ownership of the parsonage and surrounding grounds. Those who have disputed it are simply not in possession of the facts.
I see, but is the prisoner's husband, is Francis Norse, among those who have disputed your claim to permanent ownership, Mr. Parris?
Francis Norse is not in possession of the facts.
Just one more question, Mr. Parris. About the committee charged with furnishing you with firewood last November, when you tried to have them brought to law.
The committee had stubbornly and for a long time been derelict in its duty to furnish the parsonage with firewood.
But it was argued then that an extra sum had been added to your annual salary to compensate you for finding your own firewood.
But that's
Mr. Parris, Rebecca Norse's husband, the husband of the woman against whom you testified this morning, is on the firewood committee, is he not?
Rebecca Norse has been plotting the destruction of our government.
Thank you very much, Reverend Samuel Parris. Also on the stand this morning, we heard Dr. William Griggs, village physician, testify that a number of his patients had been bewitched. Dr. Griggs, you said that you yourself had seen evidence of their unnatural affliction.
I saw the ministers, the Reverend Mr. Parris's own niece, try to fly up the chimney.
You described how she was picked up by an unseen force.
An unseen force hurled her through the room so that she flew from wall to wall. Then she began to show every evidence of starting to fly, stretching up her arms as high as she could and crying, "Wish, wish, wish."
This morning, Dr. Griggs, you testified that the girls were under the baleful influence of an evil eye. Now, speaking as a medical man, what is the explanation of the evil eye?
When a witch turns her evil eye on a subject, an invisible and impalpable fluid darts from the eye of the witch and penetrates the brain of the bewitched. From then on, the witch can do with the bewitched as she pleases.
Thank you, Dr. Griggs. The excitement over the witches brings to a head the anxiety and unrest which has been disturbing these people of Salem. Dissatisfaction with a succession of governors, high taxes, a high cost of living, and lately rumors of war make it easy to understand why the distracted Salemites feel, as one put it to me this morning, that Satan is loose in New England, and why they're not surprised to learn that 150 of their own neighbors and even friends have been plotting with the devil against them and their government. The judges are coming in now. Judges Sewell, Sargent, Winthrop, Richards of Boston, Corwin, and Gedney of Salem. And here comes the Deputy Governor, the Honorable William Stoughton, who has been acting as Chief Justice during the trial. This is the sign that the recess is over, the prisoner is about to be brought in, and the trial resumed. The crowd grows quiet. Attorney General Thomas Newton has walked over to say something to Deputy Governor Stoughton.
Here she comes.
Oh, here she comes. Here comes Rebecca Norse, accused witch. She's flanked by George Herrick on the right, another constable on the left. Her husband is standing up. Francis Norse is waving to his wife, trying to get her attention, but the elderly prisoner seems to be either too indifferent or too tired to look up. That was her daughter's voice. The voice you heard was Sarah Norse's, the defendant's 28-year-old daughter. She called out, "Mother," and her mother seems to have heard her.
She raises her head. She looks a little bewildered. Judge Stoughton is pounding on the desk for order. The trial is about to start. In the front row, the afflicted girls, Ann Putnam and Abigail Williams, who are here to testify against Rebecca Norse, are staring at her. The marshal helps the prisoner to the platform where she stood this morning. Apparently, Rebecca Norse is still not going to sit. She's going to stand through this session. She's standing about 8 feet from the judges now, facing the judges. Attorney General Newton has opened the trial, and he tells Rebecca Norse, you are now in the hands of authority.
I adjure you to answer the questions of the court truthfully and not to lie.
He warns her not to lie, and now I'll throw open the microphone on the witness stand and let you hear the proceedings.
Rebecca Norse, why do you hurt these children?
I do not hurt them.
If you are guilty of this fact, do you think you could hide it?
The Lord knows.
Ann Putnam, have you seen this woman hurt you?
Yes, she beat me last night.
Despite the fact that Rebecca Norse was locked in the Salem jail last night, 12-year-old Ann Putnam accuses her of having beaten her in her own home, thereby implying that Rebecca Norse can be in two places at once and is therefore a witch.
Abigail Williams, have you been hurt by this woman?
Yes.
Now, Rebecca Norse, here are two, Ann Putnam, the child, and Abigail Williams, who complain of your hurting them. What do you say to it?
I do not hurt them.
This morning you heard read the confession of one Abigail Hobbs, confessed witch. She named you as the queen of a witch's feast. What do you say to it?
How could she say that? She is one of us.
What do you mean by that?
By what?
What do you mean by one of us?
She is like the rest of us, innocently imprisoned.
Didn't you say you would tell the truth? Who hurts these children now? Look upon them.
They are go to prayer.
We have not sent for you to go to prayer. Why did you stop coming to church when the girls were seized with fits?
It made me ill.
Why didn't you visit them in their affliction the way the other neighbors did?
I was not able to go out of doors because of illness.
What sort of illness?
I suffer from weakness of the stomach, sir.
What did he say to you?
We mustn't believe everything these distracted children say. There is no one whispering in the ear.
You dare to lie before this whole assembly. You are now before authority. I expect the truth. What did the man whisper in your ear?
I ask anyone here to tell me they saw anyone beside me. You can see I am all alone.
Let's go to the sacrament, David. Please do not be
There has been talk among your neighbors, Rebecca Norse, that your illness is of a supernatural character. What do you say to that?
I've had difficult times, sir. I am the mother of 8 children, and I suffer with the weakness that any woman would, my age and condition.
Do you have any wounds?
Attorney General Newton has asked the defendant perhaps the most dangerous question of all so far. Do you have any wounds? Referring to those marks found on the person of a witch which betray that she is in league with Satan. But Rebecca Norse, being slightly deaf, he has to repeat the question, do you have any wounds? I have none but old age, she answers. 71-year-old Rebecca Norse is beginning to tire. Her white hair, somewhat disheveled, is clinging to her forehead. She's wringing her hands, nervously clasping and... Something strange is happening. 12-year-old Ann Putnam is screaming. She is pinching. She is pinching. And now Abigail Williams is screaming. She is choking me. Both of these girls seem to be having some kind of a spasm. They're rising on the floor, clutching at their throats and crying that Rebecca Norse is choking them. Deputy Marshal Herrick and another constable have run over, and are each holding one of the prisoner's hands to keep her from pinching and choking the girls, who are at least 10 feet away from her. They're now manacling her hands behind her back. The turmoil is dying down. The spectators are taking their seats. Attorney General Newton again turns to the prisoner, who seems visibly...
You see, Rebecca Norse, what a great condition these girls are in. Why do you hurt them?
I do not hurt them.
But when your hands are freed, the girls are pinched and choked.
May I sit down? I do not feel well.
You are strong enough, Rebecca Norse, to bewitch these girls. You are strong enough to stand at your trial. Do you think these girls suffer voluntarily or involuntarily? What do you say, Rebecca Norse? Do these girls suffer voluntarily or involuntarily?
No.
The court is not able to hear you.
May my husband come up to wipe me for it. Sweat from me for it. My hands are bound.
These girls charge you with hurting them. If you think they suffer involuntarily, then you admit that what they say is true. And if you think they suffer not willingly, then you are calling them murderers. Which do you say, Rebecca Noss?
I do not mean to call them murderers. I don't know what to make of their conduct.
Answer the question, Rebecca Noss. Do you think these girls suffer against their will or not?
I do not think they suffer against their will.
Rebecca Noss is showing extraordinary courage. Old, alone, pitted against men of superior education and legal training with no lawyer to defend her, she nevertheless sticks to her point that the girl's fits are not involuntary. Now Ann Putnam's mother, Mrs. Thomas Putnam, takes the stand.
Tell the court what happened.
One morning, Rebecca Noss came to me.
What time was it?
It was very early morning. Just as it grew light. She was still in her nightgown. She came to me, and she brought a little red book in her hand.
She tried to make you sign it?
She said if I wouldn't, she would tear my soul out of my body.
What happened then?
Then there appeared to me 6 children in winding sheets. And they called me Aunt.
Who were these children?
They told me they were the children of my sister Baker, who lives in Boston. And they said that Rebecca Noss had murdered her. And they told me to go and tell it to the magistrate, or they would tear me to pieces.
Testimony piling up against Rebecca Noss has become more serious, if possible. And now another neighbor of the accused, Sarah Pepper, a widow, takes the stand.
Now, without fear, will you tell the court, Sarah Pepper, whether anything ever took place between the prisoner and any member of your family?
Yes, sir. About this time, 3 years ago, my dear husband, Benjamin Pepper, now dead, may the Lord bless his soul, was as well as I ever knew him in my life.
Yes, go on, please.
He was healthy and happy till one Sunday morning, Rebecca Noss.
The same Rebecca Noss who now stands charged with witchcraft?
The same Rebecca Noss who now stands charged with witchcraft.
What did she do?
She came to our house and fell to scolding and railing at him because our pigs had gotten into her fields.
Your fields are close together?
Yes, sir. And we're only supposed to keep half the fence mended. It's up to her to mend the other half. That was the agreement.
What happened then?
Her side of the fence was down and our pigs got through. We told her we kept those pigs hobbled, but there wasn't a thing you could say to quiet her down. She railed and scolded, calling on her son Benjamin to go and get a gun and kill the pigs.
How did your husband answer her?
My poor husband never said one word amiss to her. And it was right after that he was taken with a fit.
Was his seizure the same kind as the afflicted girls have been having?
His seizure was the same kind as the afflicted girls have been having.
Did your husband have any seizures after that?
My poor husband was never the same again. The day before he died, he talked very cheerful. But he was seized at midnight, and this fit lasted till the next night. And then he died.
The deputy marshal is leading the weeping widow Pepper back to her seat, and Attorney General Newton turns to confer with the 7 judges behind him. This looks bad for the defendant. So far, all of the testimony... Wait a minute. A young man is coming towards the judge's bench. It's Samuel North, the prisoner's son. The sheriff challenges him.
To speak. If you have any evidence to present, Samuel Noss, present it at the proper time.
This is the proper time, and I ask leave of the court to present my evidence.
Tell your story.
On the 27th of March, I and my sister's husband, John Tarbell, he's here now, and he'll swear to everything I say.
Tell your story.
John and I went up to Thomas Putnam's. to find out why his wife and daughter were making shocking accusations against my mother.
The reason why is no secret. You heard them tell the court.
I wanted them to tell me. At the house, I found Miss Putnam, her daughter Anne, and one of Anne's friends. I asked young Anne how she came to name my mother among the witches. I said, did she mention my mother's name first, or did someone else say it to her?
What point are you trying to make?
When I asked young Anne how she first came to mention my mother's name among the witches, she replied that she had seen the apparition of a pale-faced woman sitting in her grandmother's chair. I said, who was that woman? She said she didn't know her name. I said, who told you to say my mother's name?
Are you saying?
That's when her friend spoke up. Why, Anne, don't you remember? She said it was your mother. That made Miss Putnam very angry. She cried why it was not. It was you told her to say Rebecca Norse. Then they turned on each other and they said it was you told her to say the name.
I still don't understand the point you are trying to make, Samuel Norse.
What I'm trying to say is that not one of those who now accuse my mother would admit it was they first named her among the witches.
First told us they named her.
Attorney General Newton seems to be a little impatient as he motions Samuel Norse to return to his seat. His sister has risen. The Norse family seems to be on the attack now in defense of their mother. Sarah Norse, the defendant's 28-year-old daughter, without being asked, without permission, has come up and is now standing before the bench. Attorney General Newton ignores her. He's conferring with the judges. Rebecca Norse is looking at her daughter. She's smiling, a strange, vague smile. Now Attorney General Newton has turned to Sarah Norse. He's taking her testimony.
I was in the meeting house on the 24th of March, the day the committee first examined my mother. I was there when Miss Bibber...
You are referring to the widow Bibber who lives in Wenham?
That's the one. I was there when she went into a fit.
The court knows that.
I was watching her when she began to scream that my mother was sticking her with pins.
You're adding nothing new to the facts, Sarah Norse. If that is why you have asked for permission to testify...
But I saw Miss Bibber take the pins out of her clothes. I saw her take the pins out of her clothes. I saw Miss Bibber take some pins out of her clothes and hold them between her fingers. Then I saw her clasp her hands around her knees. And that's when she began to scream that my mother was sticking pins in her. You're a liar!
One of the spectators probably sees Mrs. Bibber screaming, that's a lie. She's a liar. Sarah Norse is answering her, shouting it's the truth, and you know it. The marshal is making her go back to her seat.
Come on down and take your seat. I would like to speak.
Benjamin Putnam is asking to testify.
forward.
The Attorney General is inviting him to come forward. Is asking the brother-in-law of Mrs. Thomas Putnam, who testified against Rebecca Norse just a minute ago, to come forward.
I have a paper here, signed by 39 people of Salem and Salem Village. I ask the court's permission to read it.
You may read it.
We, whose name...
Will you read it a little louder?
We, whose names are hereunto subscribed, being desired by Francis Norse to declare what we know concerning his wife's conversation for some time past, can testify to all whom it may concern that we have known her for many years. And according to our observation, her life and conversation were as she claimed it, and we never had any cause or grounds to suspect her of any such thing as she is now accused of. Signed, Benjamin Putnam, Sarah Putnam, Job Swinnerton, Esther Swinnerton, Samuel Abbey, Hepzibah Ray, Daniel
This
Andrew...
is a surprise. 39 of Rebecca Norse's neighbors, including Ann Putnam's own brother-in-law, testified by petition to their belief in Rebecca Norse's innocence. Rebecca Norse seems stunned by this unexpected turn in her favor. The spectators, too, seem visibly impressed by the long list of responsible and respectable names. Mrs. Putnam looks startled. She keeps brushing her hair out of her eyes. Her face is pale. Judge Stoughton is turning to the jury.
Rebecca Norse! Didn't you bring the devil with you? Didn't you tell me to test God and die? How often have you eaten and drunk your own damnation, Rebecca Norse?
That was Mrs. Putnam. She's screaming, how often have you eaten and drunk your own damnation? She's hysterical. She's becoming violent. She's ripping her clothes. Her husband has received the court's permission to take her outside, and he's lifted her bodily. He's carrying out, kicking and screaming out of the courtroom, and has taken her out now. The trial can start again. Rebecca Norse seems to be on the point of fainting. It doesn't look as if she can keep standing on her feet much longer. Once again, Judge Stoughton...
Wait a minute. Something else has happened. A woman among the spectators threw her shoe and hit Rebecca Norse in the face. There's a red streak on Rebecca Norse's right temple where Mrs. Pope's shoe hit her. Rebecca Norse looks white and shaken. The courtroom is quieting down. Judge Stoughton turns to the jury. Apparently there's going to be no more testimony. He's going to send out the jury for a verdict right now.
I charge that you, being the judges of the facts, if you find that Rebecca Norse did bewitch the said girls, Ann Putnam and Abigail Williams, so that they were sore afflicted and tormented, then you must find her guilty of witchcraft under the statute of James I.
The jury has risen now and is filing out of this courtroom to consider the verdict. The judges are leaving too, and Deputy Marshal Herrick is taking Rebecca Norse from the courtroom. Some of the spectators are leaving for a breath of fresh air. The jury is out of the courtroom now. Of course, there's no possible way of knowing how long they will be. They may return momentarily, and if they do, we will switch back here to the courtroom immediately. Meantime, there are about 150 other suspects, as we told you, who have been rounded up in this drive and who are now in nearby jails waiting to be tried by this same court. My colleagues Harry Marble and Ken Roberts are at this moment in two of those prisons, Boston and Ipswich, with CBS microphones, and we switch you first to Harry Marble in Boston Prison.
This is Harry Marble in Boston Prison. I'm standing in a room about 25 by 35 and 7 feet high. The walls are of stone and the windows are barred. Leaning against the walls and chained to the benches here are about 25 or 30 men who are waiting to be tried for witchcraft. Right beside me, his hands manacled, is Navy Captain John Alden. Captain Alden, what are the specific charges against you?
Witchcraft, I presume.
You have to pay your own room and board while you're in prison, don't you, Captain?
Yes. And should I have the misfortune to be found guilty, my family would have to pay the cost of my execution. And, of course, my property would immediately be confiscated by the authorities. The deputy governor, I imagine.
I am told that some of your fellow prisoners confessed to practicing witchcraft, Captain.
I will tell you how one confessed. A boy of about 18. They had him tied neck and heels until blood flowed from his mouth and nose. He confessed.
One more question, Captain Alden. Are you by any chance related to the John Alden who married Priscilla Mullen?
That was my father, sir. My parents met on the Mayflower coming over from the other side.
Thank you, Captain John Alden. This is Harry Marble in Boston Prison. I now switch you to Ken Roberts in Ipswich Jail.
This is Ken Roberts in Ipswich. The jail here is crowded with women of all ages. Beside me here is the prisoner, Dorcas Good, accused witch. How old are you, Dorcas?
I'm 4 years old.
4-year-old Dorcas Good was arrested the same day as Rebecca Norse.
I'm 4, going on 5.
Dorcas just corrected her age. She is 4, going on 5. Why are you here, Dorcas?
I want a piece of bread with honey.
Do you know why they put you here, Dorcas?
My name is Dorcas Good, and I'm 4 years old, going on 5.
Chained beside 4-year-old Dorcas here is Mrs. Rebecca Jacobs of Salem Town. Why have they put you in prison, Mrs. Jacobs?
They ran in the street. They ran in the street, and I said, look at the children. They are running in the street.
Mrs. Jacobs.
Then the men said, these are your children. They are running after you. Tell them to go back.
Your children saw you arrested, Mrs. Jacobs?
Come home, Mother. Mother, come home. I want my children. I want my children. I want my mother.
Do you get enough to eat here, Mrs. Jacobs?
Children, don't cry. Mother will be home. The nice men are just taking your mother for a walk.
Mrs. Jacobs, have your children been allowed to visit you?
Bloodroot and windflowers, sweet Mary and lilacs, they grow in my garden. When night comes, they close their eyes and go to sleep. I want my children. I want my baby.
I want a slice of bread and honey.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Jacobs, but a message has just been handed to me. The jury trying Rebecca Norse has just come back into the courtroom. So this is Ken Roberts returning you to John Daly in Salem.
This is John Daly in the Salem courtroom. The jury has come back. The jury charged with the fate of Rebecca Norse has just returned.
The judges are in their places. The prisoner, her hands still manacled, stands facing the bar. The spectators are silent, waiting. The jurymen have taken their seats, all except Thomas Fisk, the foreman. The foreman is standing, and now Judge Stoughton turns to the jury.
Have you reached a verdict? We have. What have you found? We find the defendant not guilty.
Not guilty. The jury has found Rebecca North not guilty. She looks stunned and stands bewildered and confused, pale and shaken. Her husband is fighting his way up to her. 72-year-old Francis North is crying, and his wife, Rebecca North, is now in his arms. Rebecca North, her gray head sunk on his shoulder, is crying for the first time since this trial began. Her sons and daughters are kissing and hugging her. They're all trying to touch her. They're patting her face, her hair, her dress, and they're laughing, and at the same time, tears are streaming down their cheeks. Now Judge Stoughton has left the bench and is talking with Thomas Fisk, the foreman of the jury. George Herrick, the deputy marshal, is pushing his way through to Rebecca North, probably to tell her that he's glad she was acquitted. The deputy marshal is saying something to Rebecca North now, and for some reason or the other, he's taking her by the shoulder. And now the jury is going out again, and Sam North has run over to the deputy governor. He seems to be having a heated argument with Judge Stoughton. I'm going to get over there to find out what's going on. There's something going on. There's a great deal of confusion all around here.
I did not impose on the jury. I've merely given them a fact which they had overlooked.
Mr. North, what has happened?
They're making the jury convict my mother. The jury comes back with a verdict of not guilty, and Stoughton sends them out again. They come back, and he tells them that they have misinterpreted the facts. They have my mother on the stand, and they tell her Abigail Hobbs said she was a witch. And she says, how could Abigail say that? She is one of us. Now the judge says that when my mother said she's one of us, she admitted she was a witch, too. But he heard my mother say she didn't mean that. She meant Miss Hobbs was just one of the prisoners. Why, what Stoughton's done is tell the jury to hang her.
But why? Why should Judge Stoughton do this?
Because they've got some people in office around here who are scared of being pushed out. There are too many people who don't like them. So they find themselves some scapegoats. They take women like my mother. They say she's a witch. They say they're trying to bewitch our children and sink the government. All they're trying to do is save their own necks, and for that they're going to hang my mother.
Sam North is angry, frenzied. He seems to be absolutely sure the jury will change its verdict. I've never seen anything like this happen in a courtroom before, and it's hard to believe. But we'll see. The jury is coming back already. They've only been out a short while. With Tom Fisk leading them, they're coming back into the jury box. Their faces are grave. Judge Stoughton is banging his gavel for order and has turned now to jury foreman Thomas Fisk.
Have you reached a verdict? We have. What is your verdict? We find Rebecca North guilty as charged.
Mother!
Rebecca North has been found guilty. What Sam North feared has happened. Everything he said was apparently true. And if this is contempt of this court, let it be so. A woman adjudged innocent by a jury of her peers, by almost precise direction of a presiding judge, has been found guilty and now must pay the supreme penalty.
Salem, June 29, 1692. Rebecca North is guilty, and the witch hunt goes on.
You have been listening to CBS Is There, the fourth in a special summer series of broadcasts of famous events. Next week,
July 29, 1588, the English Channel. Sir Francis Drake defeats the Spanish Armada. CBS Is There.
CBS Is There is produced and directed for Columbia by Robert Louis Cheon. The Salem Witch Trial was written by Sylvia Berger. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is John Daly in Paris. I'm standing outside the sentry booth in the square in front of the Bastille on this sweltering hot day of July 14, 1789. More than 50,000 citizens have been kept waiting here since 10 a.m. Paris time, 5 a.m. New York time, by the Marquis de Launay, governor of the Royal French Prison Fortress. The crowd is demanding that the governor surrender the Bastille so that the people may have the arms inside to defend themselves against the king's mercenary troops who are at this very moment surrounding the city. If Delaunay refuses to turn the fortress and its arms over to the citizens of
Paris, July 14, 1789. CBS Is There.
The citizens of Paris before the Bastille. Columbia asks you to imagine that our microphone is at this famous event. All things are as they were then, except for one thing.
CBS Is There.
This broadcast, the second in a special summer series produced and directed for Columbia by Robert Louis Cheon, is based on authentic historical fact and quotation. And now,
Paris, July 14, 1789, and John Daly.
It's off the minute. The people of Paris are angry and restless. After years of indignities, hardships, and a struggle for a voice in their own government, King Louis XVI called a National Assembly at Versailles to write a new constitution. The hopes of the people for recognition of their rights were raised high, only to be rudely shattered a few days ago when the king suddenly, without warning, threw 30,000 troops around Paris, mostly foreign mercenaries, and threatened to suspend the National Assembly by force. The people are boiling with anger at this betrayal of their hopes, and they are also desperately afraid that the king's troops may invade the city, or at the very least attempt to force them into submission by starvation. In a frantic hurry to gather arms with which to defend themselves, they have assembled here before the Bastille, the only remaining royal garrison in the city. 4 times they have sent delegations inside to demand its peaceful surrender of the governor. 3 times they have returned not only empty-handed, but also with a warning to disperse. Now, the 4th and what may be the final delegation has been inside the Bastille for over an hour. If the governor still refuses, there's no telling what may happen. The people don't want bloodshed, but they're grimly determined to have arms and the Bastille, which to them is a symbol of tyranny. And they're carrying every conceivable kind of weapon right now that they've been able to lay their hands on. I can see pikes and sticks and hatchets. Others are carrying axes and old swords, and a few even have muskets, which they seized this morning from the Hotel des Invalides. There are also several cannons. But whether they can take the Bastille is another matter. I've asked a young Parisian lawyer to tell you what he thinks about that. His name is Jacques Danton. He's standing by the sentry booth with me at the foot of the outer drawbridge. The booth, by the way, is empty. The guard was taken away by the people earlier, enabling us to set up our CBS equipment here. Monsieur Danton, the Bastille is surrounded by 2 moats. It has a 10-foot stone wall, a garrison of Swiss mercenaries and old French soldiers, and it literally bristles with cannon in the towers. Now, if the governor refuses to surrender, it would seem almost impossible for the people to take it.
The walls of the Bastille, monsieur, are no stronger than were the walls of Jericho.
Now, that red and blue cockade you're wearing, Monsieur Danton, I see that almost everybody here is wearing one. Does it have any special significance?
It is the colors of Paris, but we call it the cockade of liberty.
Now, tell me, sir, haven't I seen you at the Palais Royal with Messieurs Desmoulins, Robespierre, and Marat?
That is possible, monsieur. We are friends.
Well, aren't you, more than that, aren't you all leaders of the radical group here in Paris?
Some people say so.
Right, well, where are your friends today? Are they with you? Are they down here?
Yes, they are out in the crowd somewhere.
And that crowd, sir, seems restive. It seems to have a bad temper.
Temper? We are sick of financial ruin caused by war, corruption, and extravagance, falling on those least able to bear it. We are no longer willing to carry the load our fathers endured. We look to political changes that will make all men free and equal, brothers of one great human family.
Well, some of your countrymen, Monsieur Danton, have told me that our own American Revolution has had some influence on the spirit of the French people during the past 6 months.
Monsieur Daly, we admire your young country very much. It has given the people of Paris hope for better things. Not beyond the grave, but here on earth, now, today.
Thank you, sir. Monsieur Danton is walking away now, losing himself in the crowd. A huge, brawny figure of a man, black-browed, with a powerful face, and a heavy shock of black hair, which he keeps brushing away from his eyes. There's still no sign of the delegation's return from the Bastille. We thought they were ready to come out when we went on the air, but there seems to be more delay. We're still waiting here at the sentry booth, and we hope you'll stay with us. My colleague, Ken Roberts, is out there in the crowd somewhere with a portable transmitter. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to him. Go ahead, Ken. Come in, Ken Roberts. This is Ken Roberts. I'm standing approximately dead center of the Place de la Bastille, right in the very heart of this massive mob of people. It's hot here. The heat here is terrific. The temperature must be at least 110. Regardless of what happens here this afternoon, July 14th will probably be remembered by the people of Paris as the hottest day of the year. The crowd here around me stretches way back up the Rue Saint-Antoine as far as the eye can see, into the very heart of Paris. There are all kinds of people here, shopkeepers, middle-class citizens, and many of the city's 200,000 beggars. There are even some women and children. Most of them are poorly dressed and undernourished, reflecting the conditions under which they've been living for so long in these narrow, crooked, and dirty streets of Paris. They're standing and moving about in small groups. Some are hanging out of the windows bordering the square.
I've been looking around here trying to find some people who can speak English, but I haven't had much luck except for one man. We'll get to him in just a moment. But first here's a typical young Parisian housewife, and I'm going
Madame Dupré, monsieur.
Oui, madame, s'il vous plaît. She is slender, dark complexion, hair disheveled, wearing a faded gingham dress. I'm going to ask her what she intends to do with that axe in her hand.
Oh, demandez tout.
Madame Dupré, qu'allez-vous faire avec cette hache?
Détruire la Bastille, monsieur. Tout le monde a la de la Bastille. Nous en avons assez. À bas la famine.
Smash the Bastille, she says. Everybody's smashing the Bastille. We're tired of starving. We've had enough.
Mettre le feu aux 4 coins du château de Versailles.
Madame Dupré wants to wipe out the aristocrats, to burn down the palace at Versailles. And she looks as if she means it, gripping that axe in one hand and a little boy in the other. Here's a little boy now. Comment t'appelles-tu, petit? Philippe. And quel âge as-tu, Philippe?
J'ai 8 ans, monsieur.
Philippe says he's 8 years old. Philippe, qu'est-ce que tu fais ici aujourd'hui?
Je vais prendre la Bastille. Vive la liberté!
Philippe says he's going to take the Bastille. And now for the man I told you about before, the one who speaks English. His name is Monsieur Latude. Monsieur Latude, it's rather unusual for anyone in Paris today to speak English. Have you lived in England? Is that where you learned it?
No, monsieur. I learned English in the Bastille.
In the Bastille?
Oui, I was a prisoner there for 35 years.
35 years in prison?
You are astonished, monsieur.
Well, yes, you didn't tell me, Monsieur Latude. I had no idea. And I asked, how did it happen? Why were you in there?
I was charged with insulting Madame de Pompadour. She was the favorite of King Louis XV.
Well, did you insult her?
No, it was not true, but what can one do against the king's lettre de cachet?
Lettre de cachet? Isn't that the paper the king signs committing a person to the Bastille without trial, evidence, or judge?
Oui, monsieur, that is a lettre de cachet. The king signs it in blank, and he leaves the name of the victim to be filled in.
And then he gives these blanks to his friends to use as they see fit, is that it?
That is it, monsieur. Put yourself in their place. If anyone tries to make love to your wife or annoys you by loud talk at a dinner party, all you have to do is just write in the offensive person's name, hand it to the authorities, and voila, that is the last you hear of him.
Well, is that all you did, Monsieur Latude? Is that why you spent 35 years in the Bastille? For nothing?
For nothing, monsieur.
Well, Monsieur Latude, what is it like inside the Bastille? How do they treat you in there?
That is a long story, monsieur. But I will tell you one thing. Once they put me into a dungeon. The cell was covered with a foot of water. I was chained to the wall, and they kept me there for 40 months. Oui, the Bastille is a foot. It should be destroyed. À bas la Bastille!
I understand how you feel, Monsieur Latude. And now tell me, please, who was it who taught you English in the Bastille?
It was another prisoner, Major the White from Ireland. He is still in there. You see, I escaped.
You escaped? Well, tell us about it, Monsieur Latude. I never heard of anybody escaping from the Bastille.
Well, monsieur,
Just a moment. Excuse me, please, Monsieur Latude. I can see a signal from the battlement. A man is up there waving to the crowd. Something is evidently going on. Perhaps the delegation is coming down. I'm too far away, so I'm going to switch you back to John Daly at the outer drawbridge. This is John Daly. The signal from the tower is coming from Monsieur Rosier, the leader of the people's delegation. He's waving his hat. He's holding up his hand for attention. The crowd is quieting down a bit now. Apparently, he's about to say something. I'd like you to hear it if it's possible, so I'm going to lift our CBS microphone high in the air.
Nous sortirons tout de suite. Tout de suite.
He says the delegation will be out immediately. This is it. The delegation will be out immediately. The crowd is very... like the governor has finally come to terms. The people will have the Bastille and the arms to defend themselves against surrounding Paris. Monsieur Rosier has disappeared from the tower. The people's delegation is on the way down now, and I'll have the details of this surrender for you in just a few minutes. A feeling of enormous relief seems to have swept the square. I don't think anyone here, really in his heart, thought he could take this fortress by storm. And if you were here with me, you could see what I mean. The 8 circular towers of the Bastille, each 70 feet high, bristle with cannon. The entrance is defended by 2 yawning moats, 25 feet wide and 25 feet deep. And even if the people could drag down the drawbridges and hurdle these moats, they would run into the murderous fire of the guns manned by the French and the Swiss garrison. But there's no chance of anything like that happening now. This powerful fortress, which has played host to nearly every famous man in France at one time or another, played host to the man of the Iron Mask, to Marshal Richelieu, to Cardinal de Rohan, to Voltaire, Rousseau, Montesquieu, is about to fall into the hands of the French people for the first time since it was built in the 13th century. By the way, you can probably hear the chains rattling as the inner drawbridge comes down. And remember, even Peter the Great, the Tsar of all the Russias, was refused entrance into this tower of human misery and inhuman woe. No one knows how many prisoners are in there now, but if you'll stay with us for a while, we'll soon find out. For their day of liberation is here. The inner drawbridge is down now. There are the delegates. They are coming over the bridge. 5 men in black hats and long black frock coats, with Monsieur Rosier in the lead. They're walking across the inner court, and the outer drawbridge is coming down. But the first one is being taken up again. I don't quite get the meaning of that, for if the Bastille is to be surrendered, both drawbridges should be down. But we'll find out about that in just a moment. Now the outer drawbridge is down, and the delegates are walking rapidly across the bridge. They seem to be in a great hurry, and this crowd is pushing me around here. They're pushing me forward onto the drawbridge. Monsieur Rosier, into the microphone, please.
En arrière! Le gouverneur ne s'est pas encore rendu. En arrière!
Something has happened. Something is wrong. Rosier has just shouted that the governor has not surrendered the Bastille. I'll repeat that. The governor has not surrendered the Bastille. Monsieur Rosier is right on the edge of the bridge with me. Now some of the people understand. They're pushing back towards the Place de la Bastille. But the ones behind them who haven't heard are still pushing forward. Attention, cab, s'il vous plaît, attention! There's a lot of confusion here, and I'm caught in the mob. En arrière! La Bastille n'est pas encore en dos. Oh, it's no use. I just can't hold them. They pushed Rosier and the delegates aside, and we're being forced across the bridge, push the mob into the courtyard. S'il vous plaît, laissez-moi sortir. En arrière. Attention, cab. I'm in the courtyard now, rather, and I hope the microphone cable has swung out over the drawbridge into the moat. I don't know whether I'm still on the air, but assuming that I am, the people are still coming over. There are about 200 with me, and they're screaming and yelling. The guards are raising the outer drawbridge. People are spilling off into the moat or jumping forward into the inner court. Both the drawbridges are up, and we're jammed into the island courtyard between the two moats. Now, this is what has happened. This crowd of about 200 men and women who pushed across the outer drawbridge have been cut off here from the main mob across the moat in the Place de la Bastille. There is water on both sides of us. We're cut off. Gee, Huckleback! The governor has turned the guns of the Bastille on the people here in the court. They're helpless. So am I. If these bridge timbers don't stop those bullets. He's shooting them down like cattle. Men, women, falling, screaming. This is horrible. The mob in the square outside can't do a thing. They can't get to us. They've opened fire on the Bastille, though, but their fire is useless. The bullets are smacking into these bridge timbers like so much hail. We're trapped here between the two drawbridges, but at least a couple of our men are up hacking away at the chains of the outer bridge. The people are being massacred, cut down. They're all on the ground, turning and twisting in agony. They're killing them, all of them, every one of them. There's hardly a person standing up. This is unbelievable. I can't believe it. It's ruthless, inhuman. Our only hope now is to get the outer drawbridge down and get some help from outside. 2 of our men have gotten up on that drawbridge, as I told you, and they're hacking away at those chains. You can hear it probably. They cut it through. There it goes. The outer drawbridge is down. The outer bridge is down. And the mob from the square is coming across to help us. They're pouring in by the hundreds, by the thousands. The Bastille is stormed. The people are storming the Bastille. The people are firing up at the parapet, trying to pick off those Swiss guards. The bullets are flying all around us. Ow, that was close. The Frenchmen are shooting at the Bastille from across the square and up on the rooftops. The garrison, the guards, are answering with volley after volley of fire from the fortress. I can see some wagons now loaded with hay, and the people are bringing them up here. They're going to set fire to the governor's house here on the island between the two drawbridges, and they're doing it. There are 3 cannon. 3 cannon are being wheeled into place. The people must have taken them this morning from the Hotel des Avilades. They're training them on that inner drawbridge. They're going to blast it down. The governor's house is starting to burn. Smoke is curling up from it, and now our cannons are in position. They ought to go off at any minute. No, something's changed. The firing inside the Bastille seems to be slackening off a bit, but the people out here are still firing. They're mad with rage at the sight of the bodies of their own people who were shot down by the governor. Now the firing from inside seems to have stopped. The governor's house is burning, though, a flaming inferno. Smoke is shooting up in great billows. Oh, someone in the parapets is waving a white flag. He's shouting something. I can't hear what he's saying. There's too much racket. But the inner drawbridge is coming down. The bridge is down. The Bastille is really surrendering this time. The gates are being opened. The people have stopped firing, and they're going wild. They're screaming over the bridge into the fortress. I can't follow them, but Ken Roberts is coming up with his portable transmitter. Go inside. Inside, Ken. Stay with the mob. I'll switch to you when you get well inside. Well, now the unbelievable has happened. The people have done the impossible. They have captured the Bastille. I still can't understand why the governor fired in the first place. It was either accidental, that is, a misunderstanding of orders, or it may have been deliberate treachery. I also can't understand the suddenness of this surrender. It was completely unexpected, and there must have been some strong reason for the governor to surrender so quickly after his massacre of these people out here. Perhaps there was a mutiny inside by French troops, or else maybe the governor could have been shot. Or perhaps it was the threat of the 3 cannon out here which persuaded him to give up in the hope of generous terms. Well, at any rate, the Bastille has surrendered, and Ken Roberts should be well inside by now and ready to tell you what's going on in there. Go ahead, Roberts.
This is Ken Roberts. I'm inside the Bastille in a huge inner courtroom, quite high, I'd say about 20 feet, and 40 by 40 in length and width. There are no lights, no windows, a stone floor and walls. Pine torches stuck into the walls cast an eerie light over the wild confusion going on in here. The people are still pouring in. Some have seized the keys and already gone down into the dungeons to release the prisoners. The mob in here is shouting threats at the terrified garrison. The soldiers have lined up on 2 sides. Old French soldiers on the right, Swiss mercenaries on the left. They're all trembling with fear. They're shouting at the top of their lungs, "Le Bastille se rend! Le Bastille se rend!" The Bastille surrenders. The governor is in the middle of the room, surrounded by the mob. He's wearing a gray frock coat, a red cross of Saint Louis, no hat. Somebody's just snatched his gold-headed sword cane from him, but the governor is taking it all. He's standing there, grim and defiant. He's got a lot to pay for the brutal massacre of those people out there in the courtyard. Now I've worked my way up to one of the old French pensioners, and I'm going to ask him why the Bastille surrendered. Monsieur, pourquoi la Bastille s'est-elle rendue?
Nous l'avons forcé. Nous n'avons pas tiré sur nos frères. C'étaient les mercenaires suisses qui ont tiré.
He says it was the Swiss guards who fired. The French soldiers refused to fire on their own people. They forced the governor to surrender.
Le gouverneur voulait décharger son pistolet dans le tonneau de poudre. Il voulait faire sauter la Bastille. Nous l'avons empêché.
He says the governor wanted to blow up the Bastille, but they stopped him. And now the mob has seized the governor and the soldiers. They're dragging them out of the Bastille. Monsieur Rosière, est-ce que vous les emmenez?
L'hôtel de ville, pour répondre de ses crimes devant le tribunal du peuple.
They're going to take the governor and his soldiers to the Hotel de Ville to be tried before a people's court. Just a moment, there's a prisoner. The first one, he must be a prisoner. He's old, very old. His hair is down to his feet, and it's white, completely white. I can see where the chains have been cut from his ankles. He's dragging a chain with him. He's blinking. He's holding his hand above his eyes. I guess he's not used to the torchlight. I'm going to speak to him. Votre nom, monsieur? Votre nom?
Monsieur est parvenu.
Quel âge avez-vous, monsieur?
J'ai 90 ans.
He is 90. How long in prison, monsieur? Combien de temps avez-vous passé à la Bastille?
30 ans.
30 years in prison. Je vous félicite, monsieur, de votre libération de la Bastille.
Merci, monsieur. Qu'est-ce que Louis XV et Madame de Pompadour diront de tout ça?
I congratulated Monsieur Tavernier on his release, and he says he wonders what King Louis XV and Madame Pompadour will say. Both have been dead for at least 15 years. Now I'm going to ask him how many prisoners there are in the Bastille today beside himself. Monsieur, combien de prisonniers y a-t-il?
Jean, Bouchard, Bernard, Laroche, Antoine Pujada, De White, le comte de Soulage, la Corrèze.
Oui. Combien d'autres?
C'est tout.
This is incredible. Monsieur Tavernier named 6 men. Counting himself, that makes only 7 prisoners in the Bastille at the time of its fall.
This is John Daly again at the sentry booth by the outer drawbridge. I've taken the air away from Ken Roberts because I've just been informed by our CBS studios here in Paris that the news of the Bastille's fall has already reached the king and his troops in Versailles, and we'll switch out there in just a moment. First, a last look at this turbulent scene. Part of the mob is dragging the governor and his garrison up the Rue Saint-Antoine to the city hall, the Hotel de Ville. The people here are rolling barrels of gunpowder and cannon across the bridges. They're passing out guns, thousands of them taken from the Bastille arsenal. They're working feverishly against time because they're desperately afraid of the king's reaction. But now, for an on-the-spot account of that reaction, I switch you to Versailles, Harry Marble reporting.
This is Harry Marble in Versailles. King Louis XVI has just ordered his troops withdrawn from around Paris. The order was issued just a few minutes ago, after His Majesty was informed of the surrender of the Bastille. The king was in the palace when the Duc de Liancourt, a member of the royal household, brought him the news. When de Liancourt told the king that the Bastille had been stormed, His Majesty inquired, "Is this a revolt?" And the Duke replied, "No, sire, it is a revolution." The king then, without his usual bodyguard, without even his hat, but accompanied by his two brothers, ran out of the palace to the National Assembly on the edge of the palace grounds. There he made an unprecedented appeal to the National Assembly. He placed himself in the hands of the people's representatives, men he had only yesterday threatened to destroy. He urged them to help him ensure what he termed the salvation of the state. The king said, "I await this from the National Assembly, from the zeal of the representatives of my people." The king also announced that he would go to Paris tomorrow and personally conciliate the people. He has also appointed the Marquis de Lafayette, head of the new National Guard, and the Marquis will escort him into Paris tomorrow. Lafayette, who helped us, the American people, win our independence a short time ago, has been playing a major role during the last 8 years in France, helping his own people win a voice in their government. Today, he is Vice President of the National Assembly. It's a particularly happy day for him. He's standing right here beside me. Monsieur de Lafayette, what does this mean today for the people of France?
It means, monsieur, that the spirit of the rights of man, which was born in France and nurtured by your country, has now returned to Europe. The King's decision to permit the National Assembly to continue with our work of writing a new constitution is the first concession he has ever made to the people. Whatever happens from now on, France, like America, has set its course on the road to democracy. There can be no turning back.
Thank you, Marquis de Lafayette. And now, for the people's reaction to the King's announcement, we return you to Paris and John Daly.
This is John Daly. I'm standing in the Place de Grave, the city square in front of the Hotel de Ville, the city hall. The unexpected news from Versailles has turned Paris into a frenzy of celebration. The people are dancing and parading in the streets, no longer in fear of their lives. They're shouting, "Long live liberty, long live France." The governor of the Bastille has been executed for the massacre of the 171 men and women murdered by his guns this afternoon. Several of the soldiers have also been executed, and one was thrown into the Seine. The heads of the governor and his soldiers have been placed on pikes and are now being carried around the city. This strikes a rather ghoulish note in the celebration here, perhaps, but if you knew the suffering of these people and what they have endured for the last 50 years at the hands of such despots as the Marquis de Launay, you perhaps would understand, if not condone, their actions. Tyranny always breeds violence, and to the people of Paris, the Bastille, with its drawbridges and dungeons, was a symbol of rotting tyranny. The excesses committed will perhaps soon pass, but the ideals behind them are certain to live on and to grow in the hearts of the French people here today and in the hearts of their children. Oh, here come the paraders once again, and they're singing. I recognize the tune. It's Ça Ira, an old French dance to which revolutionary words have been set. They're singing about hanging all aristocrats from lanterns. The streets of Paris, you know, are lighted by lanterns swung on ropes stretched across the roadway. But let's listen to the singing. Women in the crowd is waving a large key, a very large key. One moment while I ask her what it is. Mademoiselle!
Oui, monsieur l'Américain.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
La clé de la Bastille.
Oh, she said it's the key of the Bastille.
Demain, je la donnerai au Marquis de Lafayette.
And she says she's going to give the key to Lafayette tomorrow when he arrives in Paris.
Oui, monsieur. Au Marquis de Lafayette. Il la donnera au général.
À quel général?
Washington.
To Washington, our General Washington and Lafayette's former commander. She's going to give the key of the Bastille to Lafayette so that Lafayette may present it to our own first President of the United States, His Mightiness George Washington. The crowd is still singing. I hope you can hear them. They're singing that song with the passion of the service, the heart of the crowd, on this 14th day of July, 1789. The day that will undoubtedly go down in history as
Paris, July 14th, 1789. The Bastille is stormed and the French Revolution begins.
You have been listening to CBS Is There, the second in a special summer series of broadcasts of famous events. Next week,
October 12th, 1492. Columbus discovers America. CBS is there.
CBS Is There is produced and directed for Columbia by Robert Louis Cheon, who wrote tonight's broadcast in collaboration with Macaja Wren. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.